On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick will relive some of the most iconic deaths to ever be featured in Star Wars film and TV. What character deaths stand out to you? Will they make the list? Have any villains had iconic deaths? All this and more from the two dopey talking heads. Of course, they'll end with the question of the week responses and the latest round of top 5 Star Wars fan artist features. Punch it, Chewie.
Hey now, everybody! Welcome back to the Star Wars Time Show, my friends. It's that Wednesday early evening party hour that we like to do here. And hey, like we said, Wednesdays, 5 p. East. This might be the closest we got it, Nick. 5:02 today, youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. Come have some fun. We're looking a little quiet in the chat. That's all right. We get it. We know we'd be hitting the doldrums of Star Wars podcasting after the Acolyte. And as we've seen our numbers decline, you know, we've remained somewhat positive, right? There's no toe in the line on a bridge or anything like that. We're good to go. We expected it. We've been cramming out the special topics left and right. We had one last week talking about the most important characters. We've covered the battles. We've covered the bad guys, the good guys, the Vaders. This week, as a tease, we've got, I think it's going to be a good one. We're not doing tier ranks or anything like that, or really ranking in general. But Nick and I, we want to relive 30, count them, 30 of the most iconic Star Wars deaths. And you might be saying, well, what the hell does that mean, guys? Well, you know, iconic. It's memorable, either for the emotional experience, the visuals, the shock value, right, Nick? I mean, that's kind of what iconic means. It's just, they're stand out, because there's plenty of people that die in Star Wars. No one's ever really gone, or are they? I think the 30, really. The 30 we're talking about, I think they are really gone, at least from their physical form, but you never know in Star Wars. So that is our main topic of the week. But as we always do, we like to kind of see what the fans are up to. Welcome there, League, Nova, Divide is in there. Mike Kramer stopped in early to let us know he would not be able to attend. Yeah, that's all right, Mike. That. You only have to give yourself 5 lashings tonight for your absence. Okay? All right, my man, over the past few weeks, really over the summer, we started doing this, kind of borrowed it a bit from Beyond the Dune Sea, but we like to do a little Ask Us Anything to kind of kick off the show, lead us into our pop culture segment, which then takes us to Star Wars time. That's right, there's always time for Star Wars time, but we like to kind of screw around with some other stuff before we get to our favorite pop culture franchise. And real quick, man, before we get into even Ask Us Anything, you caught up on Rings? You current? Through 6, I think, where we're at now.
Honestly, I don't remember.
I'll say this: the attack has started.
Yeah, no, I have not gotten to that part.
All right. Well, then I'll leave it there. Let's just say I do not understand how people are not liking Rings of Power, and this, I think, even more so possibly than the Acolyte, is just a clear case of misogyny and racism. Because this show is like fucking the tits. I mean, it is Peter Jackson level quality, if not slightly better. I'm just loving it. Like it's just everything going on at Region, whatever you want to call it, with Celebrimbor, Anatar, the dwarves, it's just, I don't know. I'm loving where it is funneled up through the last episode. Can't wait to see what we get tonight. Even that's right. Tonight is Rings of Power release night, so I'm super excited. There he is. All right. I was saving this for if Sir Dork was going to pop in or not. Hey there, Ben. Hey there, Jared. Good to see you. Well, Nick, I shook him down online, and sure enough, our good buddy Jared Middleton, a.k.a. Sir Dork, sent me a care package, and I feel like the biggest douche But I was like, you know what? He sent it. Look at it. He's got the dork logos on there, right? With his little.
I still have the shirt that he sent us a shirt a while back. I still have that and wear it every now and then.
I mean, literally, I love this guy. The only reason he sent this to me is because I literally was sticking my hand out digitally and saying, "Feel bad for me. Give me something." It's like and here's what makes it worse, Nick. I kind of teed it up. I'm like, oh yeah, that thing's pretty cool you got there. I'd like to have one someday. He's like, oh, you want it? I'll give it to you. I'm like, oh no, don't worry about it. Then like a day later, he puts out, yo, I just hit 100,000 subs on YouTube, and I hit him up. I'm like, you know what? You don't need that. Go ahead and send it over to your buddy Matt. Us low life 2,000K subbers. And sure enough, he did. I did cut the box just so we weren't sitting here bumblefucking it, but I have not looked in it yet. There should be one key item that I begged him for. I mean, literally was online panhandling with Sir Dork, okay? All right, let's see what we get here. Live unboxing, that's right. I was hoping he'd show up early. First thing we got here, ooh, the Sir Dork business card. Check it out. QR code it, get with them. Check them out. Instagram, YouTube. What do we got here? Holy shit! This is even better than the thing I grifted him for. Check that out. I got the official Sir Dork Trooper pin.
Nice.
I love pins. Do you fuck with pins at all, Nick? Or you're like anti-collecting everything? I would figure with your Disney Pass, you might be into it.
No, actually, Taylor is a pin collector.
Okay.
She not as much recently, but she does have like a lot of those.
Does she have the folio? And when you guys to Disney, do you guys like have dedicated pin? Okay.
No, we don't do it. We don't do it at Disney, but she does like just collect little pins of like stuff. Like if we go traveling somewhere, she'll get a pin from that place and stuff like that. So.
Oh crap! Just lost my light. Hold on here. Okay, so back to the unboxing. All right, so we got the business card. We got the pin, which honestly, I'm legitimately excited. Thank you, Jared. And now here's for the big one. Okay, let's get the box out of here. Let's get the bubble wrap going. I don't want to screw this up because this should be an awesome new addition to Star Wars Time HQ's desk. That's exactly where he's going. Let's get that out of the way. I know. Ooh, you almost saw it. Here we go. Let him get him out of his baggie here. Oh, man, it looks even better in person. Jared, you are the dude. Oh, I can't wait. Look at this. There it is. I got him. My very own custom 1/12 scale, The Stranger. Check that shit out, dude.
Pretty sick.
Check it out. Sick. Sir Dork photographed him. I begged for him, and he came through. He looks great, man. I mean, he's got the little gauntlet there, the helmet. I believe the body is a Luke body. It doesn't matter. He got the cloth on there. He's got soft goods even. Man. Looks great, Jared. He did not break. He came fully intact. I'm super excited at the end of the show. He's going right up here with my Malgus and awesome. My, what's the other M guy?
Malgus
and
Malik.
Malik, there you go.
Malik.
All right.
Malik, yeah.
Well, that is cool, man. And again, Jared, I feel like such a tool bag. But that just goes to show you how good of a human that dude is. So cheers to Sir Dork. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate you. I love
awesome.
you. Yeah,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
it really is. He's like one of my best digital friends that I've never met in real life. I really feel like right? I could rely on that guy for like, hey, man, can you watch my cat? And he'd be like, all right.
We ran into a couple people at Celebration 24 or in Chicago, but I don't think Jared was there, or he was there and we just didn't see him.
Yeah, no. Oh, I remember the one year, I don't know if it was during COVID or right before, but he was going to give us a booth at, it was like Sir Dork Con.
Yeah, I remember.
Out in like the boonies in New York, so.
I do remember that.
That is too cool. I mean, it's a shame I don't do much photography anymore because I've got a whole bunch of new hot toys are coming in. I got Mace Windu, General Kenobi, AOTC Anakin, Return of the Jedi Vader just showed up today. I got to get off my ass. All right.
What Matt does with his toys now is he just does like when you were little kids. He just fights with them. He's you beat.
Oh, I am better. You are better. No shampoo is better.
Billy Madison.
That's right, bro. All right, that was cool. I'm glad Sir Dork popped in here real quick so we could we do that. See, I even had my prop set up and everything. Whoever said we are not a prepared podcast? Phooey. So let's go get to it now. Let's get to these questions. What did they have to ask? There were not a ton, but there were some good ones in here. You all always do a good job with your questions, getting Nick and I to kind of think out of the box, not always Star Wars, which I love. And I think the fans enjoy that. They get to learn, are we as creepy as we may come off? Are we as dopey as we sound? You never know. So here are the questions. Baron's got a few this week because we needed them. So he's always
he filled
good.
It in.
Yeah, Spencer's always good for loading up the queue if we need it. All right, Nick. So here we go. This one's coming from his young son. What was y'all's is? Well, you can tell they're from the South, right? We don't say that. Well, they probably say in Ohio, but I'm more of a yins or you all, not y'all's is.
You got the Northeast Pittsburgh.
Well,
vernacular.
Pittsburgh. I think yins is only Pittsburgh. I've never heard yins outside of Pittsburgh, but for the most part, I think Midwest is you all or you guys, right? You all, you guys.
You guys. Like I actually use you guys a bit because I find it to be pretty dialect neutral, but I do lean towards y'all. Just being in Texas and from Louisiana.
Like I said, it's a goddamn miracle that we can even understand you based on where you grew up. I mean, if you just go watch, like, what were those shows, like Gator Hunter or something like that, Gator Farmer. Just go
Duck Dynasty and all that shit.
That's what Nick should look like and sound like. Like, he should be in full camo at all times, like camo or bright orange. And he should be talking like this, like going down and get some gator and get my crawheads too, going down Star Wars. But luckily, his family learned how to speak, so we're good to go. So Nick, what was y'all's dream car as a kid, and what is your dream car now?
Honestly, I was able to get my dream car.
So as a kid, so yours has been throughout your life. You've always wanted this one model, and you secured it.
I guess so. Like, I was always a big fan of Chevy vehicles, but like the first dream car that I had was actually because of Disney. So Disney World has Test Track, and Test Track has been partnered with Chevy for a long time. So when you're in line at Test Track, they will have concept vehicles in the line that you see. So like you get like first peek at a lot of concept vehicles, and I got to see the concept Camaro that was going to be in Transformers before it released. And I was like, I really want that car. And I was at an age to where like I could understand like what it was to own a car. I think I was like 15 or 16. And then when those cars came out, I was in a position to be able to pre-order one before they even came off the line. So like my Camaro was like one of the first, 10,000 to come off the line because I had pre-ordered it. So that was my dream car.
The need for speed, huh? You like the fast cars? Don't you drive a truck now?
Yeah, I drive a truck. I don't have a dream car now. I think that dream cars as an adult are like my car is literally like, this is a vehicle that like fits our home lifestyle, and once it's finished, I don't want to pay a car note ever again.
Yeah, you kind of have to move into the not full on FU money category, but you got to be pretty up there to just start cracking out dream cars as a functional
because it's
adult.
Like, and then like I don't care about like Ferraris and Bugattis and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, listen, if someone's like, "Hey, do you want one?" I'd be like, "Fucking A, I do." I think
for free, sure.
Yeah, I mean, race cars like Ferraris, Lambos, yeah, they're fantastic. All right, for me, I guess dream car as a kid would have been like an X-Wing. All right, because I was stupid. And as an adult, like Nick, I achieved it. I always wanted a Jeep Wrangler, 2-door, straight up with good wheels, not a huge lift, but not one that looked stupid. And I will forever regret the day I let it go because I had a kid and it wasn't too easy to get a car seat back there with folding seats and whatnot. But I will own a Jeep again. I think Jeeps are fucking awesome. They're money pits, but like Corvettes, they actually retain value. So... but like Nick, these days I too drive a truck. I got a Honda Ridgeline Black Edition, which is just fine. And as Nick said, I think I got another 6 months of $600 payments, and once that's done, I'll be all right not having a car payment for a long time. So
yeah,
there you go. All right. Also from Bennett, did you ever ride the school bus?
I did ride the school bus.
Did you have a long bus ride or was it short?
So I rode the school bus from 6th grade through like 11th grade when I got my car. And from 6th and 7th grade, it was a very short, but actually, no, I didn't. I started riding the bus in high school. I started in 8th grade, so it was only high school. And I did have a relatively long
Did
bus
you
ride.
walk or parent drop off in elementary?
It was parent drop off because where I went to school was very close to where I lived from kindergarten through 7th grade.
Yeah.
So I think it was only like a 5-minute drive from my house. So it wasn't that much. But in high school, it was a significantly further ride. It was probably like a 20 to 30 minute drive.
Holy shit.
So yeah, I mean, the school bus ride was pretty long. Like we would line up like when it was still dark at night because we started school pretty early. We started school at 6:30 a.m.
Holy crap.
So yeah, so it was a longer bus ride.
Yeah, see, because of working parents, I could have walked to school all through elementary. Unfortunately, for the first few years, I had to take a bus because I get dropped off at a babysitter. Then I walked middle school back on a bus. High school, they moved my ass to Ohio, and I wanted to die because who wants to fucking move to Ohio? And it was literally like Nick's saying, like 30-minute bus ride through cornfields to get to some shitty 200-person class high school. I don't like that. Like listen, it's been over 20 years, 30 years now since my parents moved me as a freshman, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get over it, but I'm here. I survived. I digress. All right, and then last one here from Baron, at least on this question. Who is the biggest asshole in all of Star Wars? Anything other than R2-D2 is wrong. He knew everything and said nothing. So Nick, who's your asshole?
I mean, I like his rationale for R2-D2 because R2-D2 was the only droid that didn't get his fucking mind wiped. Like C-3PO had his mind wiped. Like there were a lot of reasons why you could argue that R2-D2 is the biggest asshole. I don't know. I kind of think, like to a certain degree, I think that the biggest asshole might be Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Whoa, that's a saucy reply.
Because
please explain that.
He really gaslit Luke Skywalker through basically the entire original trilogy.
Certain point of view, huh?
Yeah, like he really gaslit him, and I do think that like if he was just
dick,
and like you could argue that like if he was just straight up with Luke from the beginning, like, look, your father was Anakin Skywalker, who then became Darth Vader, who is the scourge of the galaxy. Like it could have gone two ways. Like he's not. What do you think? Luke's going to immediately turn into a Sith in that moment that you say that your dad is Luke is Vader? Like no. If he has that information going into his training and like really understanding his background, he could have been a much different type of person and arguably a better Jedi. Like given the knowledge.
Well, Nick,
doesn't
he even question Obi-Wan after he's hurt? Like, why didn't you tell me? Why?
Yeah, like after he gets his hand chopped off in ESB, he's constantly like, Ben, why didn't you tell me? Like, why didn't you tell me? And it really, like the traumatic experience that he had with like how he found out that Vader was his father, and then also just like having to deal with that throughout the rest of the films, like is really tough.
That's a fantastic spin on this. I like it.
Like he had the and we've talked about this before, not at length, but like he had the opportunity with Anakin to be like to end it, just to be like, all right, look, dude, you fell, like you've tried to kill me, like the amount of shit that Anakin did before he even fought Obi-Wan and Rots was atrocious. Like he killed numerous Jedi and younglings in the temple. He goes to Mustafar and kills like obviously it's just Palpatine's lackeys, but he has more, like he kills more people there. He almost chokes out his wife directly in front of Obi-Wan's face. And when it comes down to it, and Obi-Wan's got this dude beat, he chooses not to end it, which would have been a huge win for the galaxy. If Obi-Wan just stabs him in the head, pushes him in the lava, does anything to really take this dude out, Like he could have saved the entire galaxy, decades of strife.
Could you imagine that? Like he's literally sees him. He only has one arm left, and it's a robo arm. His skin is completely melted, and he walks up to him. He's like, "Yeah, job's not done yet." Z, and then
the job wasn't done.
Kicks him into the lock.
Yoda told him, he's like, you have to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, and he still didn't do it.
No, he's like, I figured I cut off his legs, his arm, and now he's caught on fire. I think that'll get him.
It's like, but it's not enough.
Well, Nick, and then in the Kenobi series, he lets him live again, right?
Yeah, it's like, dude, you had multiple opportunities to really.
Hey, you sold me on it, man. Kenobi's a fucking asshole. I like it. When you started there, I was like, "Whoa, Nick he's getting all curmudgeonly early today." But you know what? You had a good argument. You litigated it well. I would steal what they put in the Discord just for fun. I think Chopper is definitely an asshole. Sir Dork nailed it. Mace Windu is another asshole.
Mace is definitely, yeah.
I mean, this one's lame, but you could argue Palpatine is the biggest asshole because he literally sends the galaxy into turmoil for decades. So there you go, Palpy. All right, good one there, Spencer. We'll be coming back to Spencer, I think, to close things out. Here's Michael Kramer, 98. Couldn't make it today, but got a question in. Have you started Agatha all along? If so, what are your thoughts? I'll answer for Nick. Fuck no. He has not started it. Oh, he did? Good. Well, then you can talk to this one because I have not. Yeah. I think I'm going to hit that today because we needed to finish Big Door Prize before we're going to start something new. So go ahead, Nick. What are you thinking about it?
I'm enjoying Agatha. I think the first episode really kind of takes a bit to spin up because they play off of that similar narrative from WandaVision where it's like a show inside of a show. I really enjoy the characters and how they're written in the show. I think that it's super fun and it's a style of Marvel show. I mean, you could argue that like it's similar, like it has a comedic style that's you know, I don't want to say similar to She-Hulk, but like it leans more into the comedy. And I think for the people that are in that show, that works extremely well. I think that Catherine Hahn's really funny. I think that like Patty LaPont is really funny. I think that Aubrey Plaza is one of the most unhinged, like you could argue like A/B list actors out there.
Oh, she's great.
She just makes shit fun. Yeah. And like, I like it so far. I've seen the first two. I don't think the third one's out yet. But if you've played Marvel Midnight Suns, which I know that you have, Matt.
Oh, okay. So it gets into that arcane shit pretty hard then, huh?
To me, it feels like it's leading that way. Like it's going that way. Right. But like the outfit, because Catherine Hahn plays Agatha, and the outfit that she's wearing eventually in the show matches what Agatha's ghost is wearing in the game. And like, you know, there's a lot of things in there that I'm like, oh, I wonder if this person will come in, or I wonder if Nico is going to be in the show, or
that was a good game, right? Like in the end, like I think the gameplay ultimately gets a bit repetitive because it's very formulaic, right? It's an RTS essentially. You got your players on the board. The AI's got their players on the board. You take turns, they take turns. But I think it overall had a pretty good story dealing with like the witchcraft side of the Marvel universe.
And that's kind of what it's going to lean into. It's like she's like the early parts of the season. That's not a spoiler. Like she's like trying to put together her coven and figure out what that's going to look like.
Yeah, this is the first one I've been like, okay, I'll check out. Like I never watched the one that came out recently with the deaf girl. Had no interest in that one.
Echo, yeah, I haven't seen that.
Even the Thunderbolts trailer came out yesterday, and I was like, well, at least they're doing color grading in Marvel movies now. That's like the only thing that stood out to me. I was like, oh, it doesn't look like a Marvel movie usually does.
Yeah. Like this isn't me like getting back into like Marvel full time for sure. I've just been looking forward to this show for a long time because I knew that Aubrey Plaza was going to be in it. And to be completely honest, that's the only reason that I started watching this show is like it is because of her, because ultimately like I'm not invested in that universe anymore. And like maybe I will be when Downey comes back and they like kick off the whatever the fuck they're calling it, a new saga. Like maybe that'll get me back in, but it's purely because of Aubrey Plaza's craziness and how I know she's going to be in this show that I'm watching it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's pretty much the person that she is in all of her characters, because she was on Stern like a week or two ago.
Yeah, she's nuts.
And it was I would say it was one of his most difficult interviews, because she's just like Aubrey. You know, she's like, I'm a nothing. I have no feelings, no thought. I mean, it was kind of far out. Like I was almost like, come on, lady, like fucking play along a little bit, but she's authentic, as they say.
No, it's like the character, like if you've ever watched Parks and Rec, like
that's her.
She is that character.
Yeah. No, 100%. And she happens to be a babe, so that helps too. Johnny Osage coming with, if there was another Star Wars story made, what would you want to see young Nick?
What would I want to see?
So like in the vein of Solo.
Question. Yeah, I don't know if I would want it to be around an individual. Because I do think that Rogue One and the concept of how they built Rogue One around a moment was very cool. I think that you could almost use it as like if you didn't want to dedicate a bunch of resources to like an entire trilogy for, say, the High Republic, I think it would be a really cool thing to do like Star Wars story, like Starlight Beacon or something like that, like show that era of time and like that specific huge moment in High Republic history through that. But honestly, like off the top of my head, I can't think of another individual. And like maybe Revan, but like if you do Revan, like there's not enough. There's too much Revan to do in a Star Wars story movie. But I can't think of another individual character that I would like to see one about.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about it. I'd take anything Darth Vader. I would take a full-on a Star Wars story Darth Vader. But I mean, hell, Solo 2. There you go.
Yeah.
An easy one.
Yeah.
The only Star Wars story, let's continue it. And quite frankly, those of you playing Star Wars Outlaws, I think you're probably with me. I mean, it essentially is Solo 2. I mean, I know it's probably a decade beyond when Solo ends, but as K-Vesh, you're essentially doing Han Solo stuff for all the syndicates out there. I saw Sir Dork, he's still grinding away on Outlaws. He can't watch Agatha because he's got to play Outlaws. And I feel you, man. It's still, 3 weeks now. It's a game. I just feel compelled to live in it for a little bit. I have moved off of Tatooine. I'm on a Kiva or whatever it's called, but still digging it. Still the most authentic Star Wars feeling universe game I've ever played. So having a lot of fun. Although I had a buddy who's like, hey, man, you get the new Space Marines, which I heard's pretty good. And I was like, no, I'm playing Outlaws. He's like, oh, of course you'd want to play as a female instead of a masculine man. I'm like, Jesus, man, you people have got problems.
Yeah, it's like the fact that that's even like, does that come to people's mind? Like, I guess it doesn't come to sane people's mind when they're thinking about a video game.
I'm not big in the gaming YouTube, but I guess there's a big channel, Asmongold, or I don't know. I mean, he seems like a turd bucket, but as soon as he saw the game we're about to talk about and the reveal at the end, his first question was, well, can I play as a man? I can play as a man, right?
I kind of know of Asmongold, and I can guarantee you he's asking that question because he doesn't play as a man in his real life. Like this dude is just like, it's disgusting. Like he makes a lot of money from streaming for sure, and like that's the only kind of argument that he can throw in people's faces is that he makes a lot of money and people watch him play World of Warcraft. But like, he's the most disgusting human being I've ever seen on the internet. Like it's actually gross. Like,
well, that's the internet tends to reward the gross, Nick, and that's why you and I have been heavily penalized ever since we started to do this. Because even with our foul mouths and sometimes off-topic tangents, it's not hateful enough. Like we're not racist enough. Maybe I'll be racist. You start hating women. How's that? And then maybe we'll get a following going here.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Johnny. And Scion XTC, favorite movie that isn't Star Wars?
I mean, I don't know if I have an individual. Here's what I'll say. There's a lot of movies that I can put on in the background, just let it play, and then like have me like fucking around on my phone, play on my Switch or something like that. One of those is Dazed and Confused. And if I know that Taylor doesn't listen to the show, but if she heard me say this, she would run up here and be like, "You fucking hated it the first time we watched it," because I did. Like, I hadn't seen Dazed before I moved to Texas, and Dazed is a movie that's set in the 70s, and the whole first 20 minutes of that movie are like high school seniors literally like beating up and hazing 8th graders. And it was some shit that I just couldn't wrap my head around. I was like, this is really hard for me to like understand. Like they're just abusing these children. And after a while, and like after my second watch, I was like, you know what? Like, this is more fun than I gave it credit for the first time I saw it. And as the more I watch it, the more I'm just like, I really fucking like this movie. And it just feels like hanging out with friends. So like that's one that I can put on, but mine is more of a franchise, and it's the Jurassic franchise.
Oh,
like
right.
anything Jurassic related. There's only been one Jurassic movie that I've truly not liked, and it was Fallen Kingdom. All the other ones I was down with. Like
that was the middle one of Collins' trilogy.
Yeah, so that was the one where they like go to this auction and like. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah, it's bad. It's kind of like
bad.
Jurassic Park 2, right? Where it's kind of bad.
It's way worse than
but yeah, the
Jurassic Park
dinosaurs
2.
end up back on the mainland and shit. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That one was truly bad. Like people didn't like the Jurassic World Dominion, the third one in Collins, but I enjoyed it. Like there was some shit in there that was wonky, but I like having the OG cast back all together, and like I'm never going to get tired of seeing people running from dinosaurs. It's just not going to happen.
Well, another one's coming out, Nick. So
I know, and I'm fucking
covered.
hyped, dude. Like as soon as they announced it, I was like, fuck yes. Like I left, we saw Dominion in theaters, and I was like, man, like I enjoyed it. I thought it was super fun. Like the dinosaurs look great. I'm just sad that it's over. And when they announced a new one, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm in. I'm ready for it. And it's got Scarlett Johansson in it. She's an awesome actress.
Homeboy is attached. Garrett from Rogue One, right?
Dude, I like Gareth Edwards, like Gareth,
the creator.
It, dude. Like he's such a good like visual director. Like before Tony even touched Rogue One, like Rogue One had some of the best visuals in Star Wars.
Rogue One was
ever.
fine.
Like
Rogue One was fine.
Gilroy.
I mean, we love Lord Gilroy here, but I mean, give Gareth some credit. The motherfucker pretty much had the movie rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
And Homeboy came in and he was like, "Hey, let's use Vader." And
yeah,
awesome.
He closed it out strong. Tony closed it out strong. But like that movie, like. They literally came in and said like Tony didn't touch this movie before like the sequence where they're like in the base on Scarif.
Yeah, it's
like,
Tony's work is pretty much Scarif heist to end, which you know is fucking great.
It was fantastic.
But you know, Gareth had some shit too. All right, for me, I'm kind of like Nick. I have to lean towards a franchise. I mean, I've been trying to think of just a single movie I could throw up left and right. These days, maybe Rebel Moon, and I'm not kidding. Like, I honestly, I'm one of these guys now that I'm not like, you know, Lord Snyder. I love him, but I do. I'm one of the few remaining people that kind of appreciate Zack Snyder, I guess. But I can't stop watching Rebel Moon extended cuts, dude. It's like you said, just throw it up on the background. You know, maybe see Sophia's boobs pop out here or there, some just intense gore. But for me, the franchise would be, and if you need me to pick a movie, I can, Siam, but Lord of the Rings. I mean, what Peter Jackson did in the early 2000s with those 3 movies is it trumped my love of Star Wars for a few years due to the prequels and me not necessarily loving them. So I'd go the Lord of the Rings trilogy. If I had to pick a movie out of that one, it's tough. It's either Towers or Return. I'd probably go Towers for the Helm's Deep stuff.
Yeah, so Towers is always hard to pass up just because of Helm's Deep. Helm's Deep is so good.
Hey there, B-Mad. Thank you, brother. We got a question from B-Mad, as always, coming in with the big bucks. Hey now, what's your favorite anime?
So I watch them here and there. Like I don't watch a ton of anime. There is a few that I like though. I think that Death Note is one of the best shows that I've ever seen, not just anime. Like, and I'm not talking about like the live action one that Netflix did. Like the anime itself is just fucking amazing. Like even through some of the shit that people don't like when, you know, like when it gets a little weird towards like the end of the run. But I was totally down for it the whole way through. And then Attack on Titan, but I haven't finished it, and My Hero Academia, but again, I'm not current on that one either. All three of those I think are really fun, and I think that a lot of people could watch them and enjoy them.
Well, this is just going to show you how bad I am at anime, but for me, I've never watched anime outside of the Star Wars anime. But if you need me to pick a franchise, the only one I've ever watched is Cowboy Bebop because I really like the live action version. I haven't done the live action version of what are the other ones up there now?
I mean, there is a live action version of One Piece.
Yeah.
There was a live action movie, and this is one that I forgot to mention too. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is like insanely good. Like that one's super good as well. And that's my bad for leaving that one out. But there's a Full Metal Alchemist live action as well. There is Cowboy Bebop. There's One Piece, Full Metal Alchemist, and then there is a Death Note live action. But the Death Note live action was really not great.
Yeah, so I guess I got to go Cowboy Bebop or the Star Wars Visions series. Thank you there, B-Man. We appreciate you. Have we spoken everyone's name yet? I don't think so. There might be one question to go. There is, coming from Baron. For next week, if Vader and Luke truly work together to defeat Palpatine, do we think they truly would have tried to rule the galaxy together? Vader always seemed to want out to me from the start, but kind of had the attitude of, well, I'm in too far now, keep going. With the Emperor gone and no longer having his foot on Vader's neck, could he take his own steps to walk back into the light?
Yeah, I think what would have ended up happening is something very similar to what we saw happen in TLJ after Snoke gets killed, after Kylo kills Snoke, where it's like, where Rey's like, okay, we did it. Like, now we don't have to do this shit anymore. Like, we can go be good people. And then he's like, well, no, I don't want to be a good person. I want to be a bad person. And then they fight. I think it would have ended up being like that, where it's like Luke would have been the Rey, and then Vader would have still been the Vader, and then they would have, and then it ultimately would have come to the same conclusion where it's like they fight, Luke ends up besting him, and then at the end is like, you know, Vader probably comes to the light in a different way. But I don't think that it would have been like a unified,
correct,
like father-son thing.
Yeah, because Luke was, I mean, Vader even made that pitch in Empire, like, yo, we can rule the sun, like, rule the galaxy as father and son. Luke's like, fuck you. I think Nick's spot on. I honestly think you're 100% correct. That's exactly what it would have completely mirrored Rey and Kylo from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, it would have been pretty close.
All right, good stuff there, Team SWTS. Matt, for your type of content, I highly recommend you check out Samurai Champloo.
Yeah, that's. Oh, there's one that I've heard is amazing, and I haven't watched it yet. Samurai Champloo is a good one because that one used to come on old school Adult Swim, like a Cartoon Network. There is like a very high quality one that just came out on Netflix original called Blue Eyed Samurai. And like I've heard multiple people talk about that show.
I think Hamill's in that too.
Amazing.
Actually,
he may be. I'm not sure.
Or no, he was in the Blue Heron or whatever the fuck that was.
But yeah, Boy in the Heron. That's the Miyazaki one.
All right. Well, hey, like Sir Dork said, I'm playing Star Wars Outlaws, so all this anime can go fuck itself for a little bit. I got plenty of live action to dig. I got to watch Shogun, the show that won like 5,000 Emmys. So
most Emmys ever for a single season of television. I mean, Shogun was fucking incredible.
That's
dude.
That's my next watch, 100%. I haven't re-upped to Max yet, so I haven't watched Penguin or any of that stuff or finished.
We watched the first episode of Penguin, dude, and like honestly. I know that, like, here's the thing is like it got a lot of views for Max, but it was like it didn't, like, I don't like how Colin Farrell plays Penguin, and for some reason they fucking put him in a fat suit,
right?
And like,
and he hated it in real life, so it probably bleeds through in the performance and how he brings the character to life.
Yeah, I just like some of the choices made around like the casting choice and how Penguin is played. It's just like, just hire a fat Italian dude. If you're gonna hire Colin Farrell, who's a skinny Irish guy, to play a fat Italian mobster, why didn't you just fucking hire a fat Italian guy.
And don't they call him Oz Cobb, right?
Yeah,
Oz Cobb.
Yeah, because he's like, well,
what the fuck is that?
Yeah, he's like, well, none of the people who respect him are gonna call him Penguin. But that's the thing is like, there's so many different fucking versions of Penguin that like the Penguin in Gotham was okay with it. He like accepted that as his moniker. And then every now and then when people would like call it, like say it in a visceral or nasty way, he would go at him. But he accepted the moniker. And then Danny DeVito's Penguin was different. And then this Penguin's different. It's like, dude, I'm so fucking tired of the DC universe. And this is like me and Taylor were talking about it when we watched it. It's like, I'm tired of watching the DC universe reboot itself every 6 months. I just can't do it anymore. Like,
well, James Gunn's going to save it this
fuck
summer
James
coming
Gunn.
up with
Like,
Superman.
like
it's all fixed.
James Gunn's fucking Guardians movies got progressively worse. I'm sure he'll reboot like Superman and all that stuff to like make it cool for 3 movies again, and then it'll all go to shit again. But like, at least Marvel has had a consistent storytelling universe for 20 years, whereas like every time a movie does bad for DC, they just reboot it. And it's like, bro, your shit's not good. It's not worth following. I'm just done with DC.
It's a shame because DC started it all. There would be no Marvel without DC, and Marvel essentially copied every DC character ever created.
and like, it's so fucked up that like they put this shit in like the worst hands for people to take care of it. They just
if
suck
you think
at
about Marvel characters, I think their most original have to be Wolverine and Spider-Man. Pretty much every other character you can make a direct line to someone in DC. All right, well, we're not here to tear up the DC universe.
They've already done that to themselves.
Right.
They don't need me to do it.
A lot of self-inflicted wounds over there in DC. But I do want to talk about a franchise and a film that came out last week, and I'll tell you what, people, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. If you're on the stream, you see the graphic now. I'm talking about Transformers 1, a new animated prequel for the Transformers universe. And I have to say, Nick, I assume Transformers isn't probably a thing. It wasn't necessarily a thing when you were a kid. Yeah, I remember when I was growing up, Transformers released toys first, then you got the show. So I was always big into these motherfuckers, just from the toy line. And, you know, we got the live action movies, and hey, the Shia one's not bad. And then they progressively got dumber and more chaotic and, like Nick's saying, goofy timeline stuff, kind of like what DC does. So when this one came out, I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. It's Transformers. It's a cartoon. The kid will have fun. We'll take her friend. And I can't it can't be that bad for me, right? It's Transformers prequel. Maybe I'll learn something. So I show up last week, and as it's playing and, you know, we're getting into it, I'm going, holy shit. This is literally the greatest Transformers story that has ever been told in any medium. Like, when you want to talk about a perfect prequel, you say Transformers 1. I wish Star Wars would take cues from this motherfucker right here, Transformers 1. They absolutely nailed it. It doesn't get any better than this when it comes to an origin story. You know, we all have known the general story of the Transformers and what happened on Cybertron with the Decepticons and the Autobots and Energon, and we got to leave. This is all before that. You've got Orion Pax. You've got D1 or D14, who eventually become Megatron and Optimus Prime. You get to see all this stuff. It is just perfect. Like, the lore building, world building in this movie, I can't chip it apart. I mean, just go look on Rotten Tomatoes. It's damn near perfect with critics and fans. It is a win. Get your asses out to see this. Even if you have been so turned off by the live action Transformers that you can't stomach any more fucking moving robots that change into shit, you need to go see this. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, man. Yeah, like Jared doesn't even like Transformers. He went and saw this. Now he is a fanboy, and that's kind of what it does. Yes, B-Mad, it is the perfect prequel. I would have, if I was still doing reviews, I would have a hard time to not give this a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, I was always a fan of like Transformers as a kid. Like, it wasn't as big when I was growing up as it was when you were.
It didn't have a big run, man. I think that after the toys release, I think you got maybe 3 years of the cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't that big, but it would like, reruns would come on and stuff like that. I always enjoyed it as a kid, but I really didn't like, it wasn't a huge part of like my childhood. Like really Transformers for me was when the Bay movies came out.
All right.
And really it was just like the first two, because after the second one I was like, oh, this has gone to shit real fast. So I didn't see any of the movies after the second one.
Oh, it gets even squirrelier once Shia drops out and they have to bring in like I think Mark Wahlberg gets plugged in for one.
As soon as I saw that
Ramos
like,
guy gets plugged in for one.
I saw that. Well, first fucking Megan Fox dropped out, and then they replaced her with whoever that blonde girl was. And then as soon as I saw Wahlberg was in, I was like, oh, this shit's dead. And they just have left it on.
Well,
the
Nick, I know I probably can't convince you to go watch a cartoon in theaters, but if you have Paramount Plus or a friend, you're going to want to watch this one when it comes out.
Yeah,
it is so damn good. It is so damn good. It explains essentially people like Optimus in his original form, he was more or less a slave robot to a prime. I don't know. It's all good stuff. All good stuff. It like I said, you couldn't ask for anything better to lead you up to what you know about Megatron and his Decepticons and Optimus and his Autobots. It's fucking perfect. Even Starscream is in it as the leader that we all know. He used to be the leader of the Decepticons. You see all this shit, and it's only an hour and 40 minutes, so it's got a good pace. Very good. Yeah. Very good shit. All right. We got one little other pop culture thing to get into before we get into our 30 most iconic Star Wars deaths. Who made the list? Who got left out? Which ones will Matt and Nick say are their top 3? But before we get there, the only reason we're talking about this, longtime fans will get it. Nick and I were hardcore fanboys of Ghost of Tsushima. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've got my Lord Jin Sakai figure sitting right next to me still. It was one of the greatest games I've ever played. It came in a time where we needed new IP. It was refreshing. It kind of honored the time period of what 3rd or 14th century Japan.
Yeah, feudal.
I mean, the campaign, you could sink 60, 80 hours in. It was amazing. You wanted to unlock everything because it was just one of those games. And then the multiplayer came out, and that was just as addicting. It was perfect. So, of course, everyone's like, well, I wonder if we'll ever get a sequel. Well, fast forward, what, Nick? It's been 4 years easy, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Sucker Punch announced it last night at Sony State of Play. It's not a direct sequel, but it is in the vein because they're essentially trying to start a new entertainment franchise. They want to make movies, do more comics, more toys, more games. So they revealed Ghosts of Yotei, which is set 300 years after Ghosts of Tsushima. So obviously Lord Jin Sakai is toast. He truly is a ghost at this point in time.
Indeed.
The protagonist is a new hero, a female. So watch out, you weirdos. A female named Atsu. It takes place in a completely different region of Japan. So you can get like snowy mountain locations. And based on the trailer, it looks like you might have a wolf companion somehow or someplace. Like Nick was thinking, I'm wondering if just like Lord Jin Sakai, if we're going to get to see Atsu go into the hot springs to get extra powers, right? Come on, guys. Those of you who get upset about female leads, come on. So you're getting in there. We get to see Lord Jin's butt and abs every time. Why not see Atsu's lovely form? But anyways, it's set for 2025 release, 300 years after the first one. And the new protagonist's name is Atsu. The trailer is out now. I don't know about you, Nick. I was super excited to see this. Can't wait to play it. And I have a feeling it's going to be just as great as the original.
Yeah. Couple things on this for sure. Sucker Punch to me is one of the most consistently excellent studios.
And they always try something new, right? Aren't these the Insomniac people, or are they the shooter franchise that they started for Sony?
So Insomniac, I don't know. I don't think it's the same studio. I'm not 100%
You're right.
sure.
Insomniac, I believe, was...
And Insomniac did the Resistance shooter franchise, like that originally launched on PS3. And then they also did, I believe they did the first couple of Infamous games.
I just pulled it up, Nick. So Sucker Punch, they are known for the Sly Cooper, I think was their first thing.
Such a good series.
Then they started Infamous back on PlayStation 3, I believe, or 4 maybe. and then Ghost. So that's what they're calling their best work. So Sly Collection, The Infamous, and Ghost.
Yeah. Infamous Second Son is one of my favorite video games of all time.
Quality franchise.
Yeah, like just so fun. It was a release title on PS4. Like that was one of the few games that I've ever gotten a platinum trophy in, because it was just one of those games, like you said, for Ghost, that just sucked me in completely. So I've anything Sucker Punch puts out, I'm in for. Sucker Punch also did. No, they didn't. Insomniac did the Spider-Man games. But the second thing on this is Erika Ishii is the person who plays Atsu. And Erika is one of my favorite online personalities. Erika's really big in the online D&D space. She's an improv. She does a lot of voiceover work. Erika, just as a person, is really fun to watch. And I really am excited to see her be the lead in this game. And like in this style of game, I think that she's going to excel at. Like Erika is fantastic. Like she is very like physically capable. She's super smart. She's really funny. She's only 5 foot tall. Perfect. That's my type of woman. She's a very small person, but like everything that Erika's in, I love watching. So I'm super excited to play this. Right
in your gen, man. 37.
She's similar age to me.
Look at that. You guys are twins. She looks fantastic. Can't wait for the game sometime in 2025. I would assume probably late in it. I bet it's going to be like a holiday release. If the first announce is coming now in the fall, it seems like it's probably going to be close to a year before we actually get it.
Probably so. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the thing, like, I would have been excited for this game anyway, but the fact that Erika is playing the lead in this game makes me more excited for it.
And because I'm a creep, I'm excited to see if Erika is going to get into those hot springs. What Jin do in the hot springs? What could you get from that? Was that the haiku when he'd sit in the springs, or was that?
No, so that was what was that? I think it was to like increase your stamina levels or something like that. It was like one of the gauges. Like would. All
right,
some shit like that.
Good stuff. Before we move into our special segment, B-Mad did pop in here and he wants an update on the Outlaws story. I can tell you it's choice, at least through Tatooine. A lot of crazy shit happens on Tatooine. Essentially, the story is, Nick, you got to go to these different planets to start building a crew for this guy named Jalen. And on Tatooine, you're supposed to find a heavy. And let's say you find them and shit goes sideways. So Tatooine has been very exciting story-wise. I don't want to give any of the big beats away. But I really like where I think this is headed. And they definitely sprinkle in lore that gets paid off on in content we've seen. For example, the new crime lord in here that's in charge of Zarek Besh, Slero. Let's just say he has a conversation with Bib Fortuna that teases Bib may have had some help fully taking over the palace after Jabba's death. So it's very good at doing that type of stuff, kind of leaving breadcrumbs for lore that we know exists in the movies and shows. But I think by the end, the all-star character is going to be ND5, the old commando droid that's been repurposed. He is shaping up to be a top-tier Star Wars droid in terms of how he behaves, how he talks, what he does, his actions, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So there you go,
B-Man. Seems to be like the go-to for new Star Wars games is like this fun droid character. Because even when we were playing as Iden in Battlefront 2 campaign, like she had that droid.
She had a little companion guy.
Yeah.
You got BD1 for Cal.
Yeah, and then now this one as well. So
it's like, and he's super. He's not playable, and he doesn't really even go on missions with you. Kay, I mean, I love Little Nix. That's her little pet. I mean, he's quite helpful. But yeah, listen, man. I mean, Outlaws. It's a shame Ubisoft did what they did, because they essentially allowed all the fuckheads on the internet to get a little juice behind their campaign. which I think tarnished the game in the long run. But for those of us that waited, got it after the early release, and are actually playing it and not just watching people yell about it on YouTube, you'll find that it's everything the studio told us it was going to be. I mean, it is, you are living in Star Wars when you're playing this game. I'm probably most blown away by just listening to all the random characters in the world talk about the world. Because it's really never repeated, and sometimes they update their conversations based on what you're doing on that planet or in that MOS or whatever. It's wild.
Yeah, I'm I said my piece on Ubisoft. I want to play the game, but like I said, I really just am gonna wait for it to come to Steam so I don't have to pay for it. Like, I just have so many like there's just no way that I can justify paying full price for a game when I have Steam credit.
100%.
So like,
and I hope it makes Ubisoft, it over there, man, because I know you're gonna apprete this game. I
know I will too. But it's just like you said, Ubisoft fucking Ubisoft it hard. And
they fucked over massive, like all those. I feel horrible for the people that actually worked on the game, because they truly dumped their Star Wars hearts and souls into it.
Yeah, I do. I feel so terrible because like all I've ever seen about this game from people who are actual Star Wars fans and not just douchebags that have Star Wars pictures on their profile, like, is good. Like everything is, it's just been like, it's so expansive. You can live in the world. Like, is the combat the best? No, but it's like, the combat is fun and it's repeatable. Like, God, I fucking wish that anybody other than Ubisoft would have made this game. Like, it's just, I don't know what else to say. Like, if you're going to be as openly bad at being a publisher as you are, you have to expect people to stop buying your games.
Yeah, man, you earn a rep, and smart consumers will withhold their cash. All right. Well, Nick, it's time to move into our main segment of the day, the 30 most iconic, and we can assure you there is not a single death more that needed to be added to this list. Yeah, we'll try our best to kind of keep this moving. I know 30 is longer than we usually do, but some will just be like, yeah, they died. It was iconic. It was neat, but not really meriting a long discussion. So again, these are not ranked in order. We're actually starting with a massive one, all right? And then at the end, kind of like we did for the Vader stuff, I'll ask Nick to kind of ramble through his top three, and then I'll give you mine. Okay, so here we go. Drum roll, please. Our first iconic death of Star Wars, of course, is the Vader Anakin death in Return of the Jedi. Most notably, when he asks his son to remove his mask so he can look upon him with his own eyes, and then lets his son know that you were right, Luke. Tell your sister you were right. I mean, come on. It's like, for me, this one fucks me up still to this day. And if I talk about it too much or really get in the headspace of this scene, I'll get a little weak in the voice. Okay. You might call me Sad Ronnie for those that listen to the Stern Show. It's a beautiful moment. Anakin comes back to the light in full thanks to his son. They get to have a bonding moment, and then his father passes. So it's both beautiful and highly tragic. I'd be hard pressed for even a casual fan not to name this as an iconic death. Yeah. It's like, we talked about this recently with our Vader episode after James had passed. It's probably, to me, the most iconic death in Star Wars. It is both the death of a villain and the death of a hero in one. It's the death and rebirth of Anakin Skywalker, all within the span of 5 minutes, essentially. And it is really a touching moment in truly the first and final moment between a father and son. Like, this is the first moment that Luke ever had with his father, truly his father, Anakin Skywalker, and also the last moment that he ever had with his father. I mean, Nick, would you argue it's like the only sad-based emotional moment in the original trilogy? I think that the revelation of Vader being Luke's father was also like a big sad moment. I mean, you could argue when Han gets frozen, that's kind of sad. We're going to be talking about another moment that's very sad, but if you think about the OT, really Star Wars in general doesn't really kind of play with sadness and those types of feelings for too long.
Yeah.
But it is, when I try to scan through it, I mean, in the OT, it probably is the one that would work me over the most.
Yeah.
If I had to rewatch it over and over.
It's also like most of the time you don't live in the sadness. Like you said, like the moment happens and then you move on. But like when this moment happens, like there's the funeral pyre and like
Right.
there is a sadness that lingers after it. Like
Yeah, a lot of good visuals. I mean, hell, the fact that we get to see Vader without a helmet makes it iconic, right? I mean, that was a huge thing.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big one. Teaser, it may or may not be in our top 3. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Give me a break here, dude. I mean, I'm about ready to tattoo Sebastian's face onto my face. That's how much I love this scene. All right, next one here from the animated wing of Star Wars, and we're covering pretty much all shows and movies. All right, no books, legends, shit like that. But we got Duchess Satine, the Clone Wars. Okay, this is it's kind of a big one for a few fronts. Let me go ahead and set it up, then we'll get some thoughts from Nick. But it's really the only time we ever get to see Kenobi have emotions like this: sadness and attachment. B, it led to all sorts of exciting stuff on Mandalore, which opened up that planet to us for the first time through the Clone Wars. And C, Satine getting murdered by Maul is what finally snapped Bo fucking Katan out of her bullshit and got her back on the good side of Mandalore and allowed her to ultimately, through Rebels and then through the Mandalorian, reclaim her planet and bring her people together. So it's kind of a catalyst type of death, Nick.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like, to me, like what's more memorable about this death is the impact after it happened. Like you said, like really kind of seeing Kenobi and how much that affected him. Like we know that you know, this was like probably the only relationship that Kenobi may have had in his lifetime. Like I would say like romantic relationship, interpersonal relationship.
He might have even gotten the second base master. As a Jedi.
He may have.
She let him cop a feel.
But like the impact it had on him, and also the fact that like opposite of Anakin, like that kind of galvanized him in his role as a Jedi,
to
right?
never
like,
have an attachment. Like Nick, do you think if she lived, he might have been a little more? He would have been a different Jedi overall.
What 100%? Yeah. Like I don't think that he would have gone like full Anakin and fallen to the dark side, but he may have strayed more towards like that. Like, you know, I'm down with the Jedi, but like there's definitely some shit that I don't agree with. Yeah. Like be like not a dissenter, but more of like a neutral party. So like the impact it had on him, like you said, the impact it had on Bo-Katan and like really pushing her and making her understand that like this faction that she was a part of and the leadership and like Maul and like what was going on Mandalore was just a completely like wrong thing to do and like put her back on a right path. So while like it's not a death that like stands out to me in terms of like the individual's impact on me, it did have like a very big effect on the people that were around.
Yeah, of course. And that's kind of what this list is. I mean, it's everything. It's the impact on the viewer, but also within the universe here. So I agree with you. All right.
This is an interesting. BMAD says finding out Obi-Wan had a love interest showed how hypocritical he was. I don't think
he did technically let Padme and Anakin kind of do their thing.
Yeah, like I mean, he knew
what was
like,
going on.
Yeah, it like it would be one thing if it was like he was on Anakin's ass all the time, being like, "I know what you and Padme did, and it's not okay." But he wasn't. Like he could have gone to the Jedi Council and been like, "Hey, these two are married." So, like
he let it go. I think he was hoping like, Padme would kind of figure the shit out, but they both screwed it up. So.
I don't agree with that take that he was hypocritical, and like that's one thing in Jedi lore is like you keep seeing is like, well, there's human nature behind all these Jedi, and as much as this is what the Acolyte was saying at the end of it, like as much as they try to control their emotions and try to control their humanity, for lack of a better term, that encompasses all of the alien races as well, like. You can't do that. Like ultimately, like you're gonna have feelings for somebody that's beyond platonic. like you're gonna fall into situations where like the rigidity of the Jedi code does not align with your personal like expectations and belief systems. Like we saw that throughout the entirety of the Clone the fucking whole Clone Wars is just Anakin and Obi-Wan running around doing shit that the Jedi Council would not want them to do. Like it's I don't find it hypocritical. I don't find it hypocritical.
Next one here, Nick, and now that I think about it, I was like, oh, Return of the Jedi, Anakin dying. That was probably the only sad moment, but I take that back. Nanta, the Ewok, dying was one of the first sad moments in Return of the Jedi. I'm not kidding you. Like Nick may laugh at this one. This goes all the way back to me as a kid. Whenever this moment would come up, I'm talking about when the AT-ST essentially takes out one of the Ewoks. It fucked me up. I do not like this scene even to this day. He's sitting there like, oh, and then his buddy's like shaking him like, oh no. And it's a very sad fucking death.
That is.
I know it's completely random. It's not even one of the main Ewoks that become a part of like the cast, like Wicket. But Nanta, man, when Nanta goes down, you feel for those little murder bears.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, I think it also, like they did this for a reason, right? Like you see a bunch of little teddy bears running around on the field and like they're like, it's the first time you see them get hit by something, they like flip and it's funny and like, oh, it's funny. Look at, they're throwing rocks at them. But like this is made to make you understand.
They have stakes too, man. Like they're sacrificing too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is a society of sentient beings that have feelings and emotions. And like when this Ewok dies, like everybody in their clan is going to remember this and mourn them. So it like grounded you in the fact that like, yeah, they're little teddy bears, but also like they have lives and stories and they have like everything. Like
I said, like Jared's saying, it is as a child, I always remember seeing this and just going like, oh man, that hurts. No, not Nanta. Not Nanta, damn it, no. Yeah, this is a good one. Had to make the list. Sorry, people. Be mad. You got some homework this week, bro. You need to go watch Return of the Jedi again.
Just go watch ROTJ again.
No, it is not edited out. Stop it. Fire it up tonight. That's enough blasphemy out of you, Be mad.
No, it wasn't. It was
Moving
not.
On. All right. Next one here. An iconic one from the Rebels franchise, and not the one you may be thinking about if you're listening on the radio. We're talking about Maul's death at the hands of his nemesis, Ben Kenobi, at this point in time. I mean, listen, it's one of the most beautiful deaths in all of Star Wars. You have this contentious bond relationship between these two. For years now, Obi-Wan hasn't given a second thought to Maul, but as we saw, Maul literally could never let go of his hate for Obi-Wan. It drove every decision he ever made. It even made him slightly insane there in Star Wars Rebels when he was trying to get that holocron because he needed Ezra to point to Ben's location. He gets there, we get the Kenobi, which is a famous moment at this point in time from Sam. But then the duel itself, it was a ballet that was over in the snap of a finger because of how in tune with the Force Obi-Wan and how out of whack with it Maul was. Maul tried to do the exact move he pulled on Qui-Gon to kill him in TPM, and Obi-Wan literally just goes, zip, zip, you're dead. But then, instead of spitting on his face and saying, fuck you, pal, that's twice, he holds him in his arms and literally caresses him and provides support and empathy for him as he is dying. Okay, this guy just tried to kill Kenobi, and he takes him in as a friend, as an ally, and says, "Hey, man, it's okay. It's okay. I don't worry. I've got the chosen one." I mean, if people forget, Maul was ultimately concerned with the fucking chosen one. Like, do we have someone to fight this fucker? And as he's dying, Kenobi reassures him, like, don't worry, pal. I got it. The chosen one will be all right. Yeah, I mean, it was a really cool moment to watch. And like when it first happened, I think there were a lot of people that were like, oh, I wish the fight was longer. And like a part of me does, but also it is just kind of, it made poetic, so much like sense. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like it just makes sense for him to go out like that. And yeah, I mean, it was a good death for an icon, like a character that would become even more iconic after his death, like after his on-screen death, because obviously in season 7 of Clone Wars, you have everything that's going on with him in that, and you know, the stuff that pops up around Solo and everything else as well. So
It was a fantastic moment for this character, a good way to close out his story and ultimately move on from there. Yeah.
Hey, we appreciate you, Ben. Hopefully you weren't waiting too long. We actually started at 5:02 today, so you gotta that.
We were on time.
All right, yeah, that's a good one. Maulin' Rebels, rest in power, our red-faced friend. Next one here, you know what? I mean, this was kind of a late ad, but when you think about it, it's definitely a death that I think most fans would describe as iconic because it was one of the more brutal deaths. It was probably the most brutal we've seen in Star Wars up until this point, and I am, of course, talking about Mace Windu's easy takedown. It almost looked like a joke of Jango Fett. I mean, we get the blaster bolt deflects all the way into the decapitation. We have seen the alternate cut that's a little more violent where he's literally cutting his appendages off, then he goes for the head. But it's a memorable moment, Nick, I think mainly just for the level of violence George chose to portray for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, up to this point, like, there's only so much you could do in the original trilogy in terms of, like, violence.
Yeah, you ain't cutting any heads off back in the 80s because it would have been too hard. It would have looked too stupid.
Yeah, it would have looked awful. So the fact that it was probably the most brutal death that we'd seen up to this point was what made it stick out.
McNugget's right. The Dooku reaction, he's like, ooh. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, because I think that, like, right after that happens, like, they kind of turn and walk out. Like, they're like,
it shows Dooku and his face is like, like, ooh, I didn't see that coming.
But I mean, ultimately, it's the moment that really kind of is supposed to solidify to you that, like, okay, Mace Windu is not to be fucked with. Like, you only really hear about how, like, badass Mace Windu is, and I think in the novelization of ROTS, they do a lot more about with him and, like, go further into, like, why he's such a badass, and, like, this lightsaber form that he has chosen is, like, nobody else in the Jedi Order can use it because it, like, embodies the dark side to a point to where it's like you're really you're not only fighting your opponent, but you're fighting off the dark side at the same time as you're fighting.
Yeah, he does use that crazy Form 7, or I forget the actual name.
I think it was. Yeah.
I mean, this is Mace Windu's only highlight of the prequels, right? I mean, everything else, he's being a dickhead.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it's just this was his one moment to shine, and he shone. He did a good job in that for sure.
He did. Be mad. You need to watch Return of the Jedi and join Team Nanta. Okay, stop. Yeah. Stop it with that. All right, our next death coming up. Well, you know what? This guy was involved in it, and it's his own death. We're talking about Mace Windu dying with an unlimited power blast from Palpatine. Of course, it's an iconic moment. I mean, this is the moment Anakin decides to turn to the dark side by chopping off his master's arm and allowing his new master to tee him up with some Force lightning and shoot him out of the top floor of his office. You know, it's the visuals, the lightning. We see Palpatine's face deform, so we get to see how that happens. You know, Mace as a master wanting to murder someone without trial, which he should have, and Anakin obviously making his folly there. So just for the implications for the galaxy, Mace Windu's death definitely had to be on this list.
Yeah, it's a huge implication. It's the moment that cements Anakin as Darth Vader. He gets dubbed Darth Vader right after this. He is... Yeah, I mean, it's a moment where it's like you're watching it and you don't know, like, still to this day, like, did Sidious throw this fight because he knew that
hell yeah, he did.
Anakin would be there? Like, I don't know though.
Gillard told us. Nick's like, yeah, man, listen, he was fucking around.
So, you know, it's visually cool to watch because of, like, the lightning and stuff like that. I think that the acting on the end of you know, the acting just in general in the prequels, you just kind of have to look past at this point.
No.
Yeah, it's just like, okay. Like, there, if you've ever watched or if you ever listened to the Rewatchables, which is like Bill Simmons's movie podcast, there's one category that they talk about, which is like the overacting award. Like, fucking Ian overacted that shit to a degree.
I mean, this whole movie,
ridiculous.
This whole movie is memeable with Palpatine moments. I mean, the do it, and then the no, and unlimited power. I mean,
it's just like, dude, like Ian just dials it up and through this whole movie, but like in this scene in particular, it's crazy. But yeah,
awesome.
I mean, it's iconic because, like you're saying, it's submit, like that was the Jedi's last chance. Like if he chops his fucking head off, it's over, right? Like they have saved the day. Period.
I mean, Mace made the supervillain mistake. He kept talking about what he wanted to do instead of just doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I mean,
quit going into a soliloquy and just stab motherfuckers. Okay?
Yeah, it's like just fuck. It's like, oh, I know I got to kill this guy, so let me talk about it for 5 minutes before I fail to kill this guy. It's like, okay, yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Just fucking kill him.
All right, well, there you go. Yeah, Mr. Mace getting blasted out of the window, and he may or may not be dead, right? Mace Windu lives.
Yeah, right. It's like he could still be alive. I mean, I'm in the camp. I'll take Mace back.
Sure, who gives a shit? I mean, like I said, these days everyone
Nobody
survives.
else in this fucking franchise is dead, so just fucking bring him back.
Qui-Gon is the only one that actually died. Everyone else is still alive in some capacity.
True.
Our next death to talk about, and it was definitely a sad one for a non-organic. It is we are talking about a droid, and we're talking about our guy, K2SO, in his heroic last stand in Rogue One to allow Cassian and Jyn enough time to get the data disc. It just visually, the dialogue, the feels. I mean, this is one of those. It has everything. I mean, it has a huge impact in universe because if he doesn't become the bullet sponge, they probably don't successfully complete the mission. But then the visuals of literally Cassian's best friend, even though he's a droid, eating blaster bolts and slowly dying as he's holding on to his last bits of power. Literally to the point where, he dies on the floor, essentially saying, like, go finish the fight. I remember the first time I saw it, I mean, I was emotionally moved by watching a droid die. And that to me speaks volumes about this death.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was as emotional a death as you can have for a non-organic character. I think that it was executed perfectly. I think that of all of the deaths that we've seen in the Disney era films,
that's right. That's what he says.
Yeah, like in the Disney era films, that this may be one of the most emotional for sure.
Yeah, 100.
And it really was like that's what like what you said there is like you see it's not just like he gets blasted a bunch of and then he fucking falls apart. It's like you hear him breaking down, like you hear the gears starting to give out. You hear the changes in his voice intonation as like he starts to like power down from the bolts and stuff. And it's like it hits you emotionally as an organic person that like this robotic animatronic is experiencing is fully experiencing death like we haven't seen before for a non-organic.
I mean, really, it's a robot, but for the most part, when we were all watching it, it felt like you were watching a person sacrifice themselves for their friends, and it was beautiful, and it's a fantastic moment, and that's why I'm super excited about Andor season 2 and the clip of 3 episodes where we get to see how these two bonded, and if my theory pays off on that, there's some B2 in K2.
Yeah.
All right, next death here. This is great so far. Coming up, this is a tough one. He became a dad. He might have not been the best dad because he couldn't leave that smuggling life alone. But when he decided to reconnect with his son, he did give him an honest and heartfelt mea culpa and opened the door to return to the light. But his son had other plans. He felt he needed to take him out so he could fully become like his grandfather. So, of course, we are talking about the tragic death of Han Solo in TFA.
Yeah. I think that this is one of the best scenes in the entire sequel trilogy, straight up.
True.
I mean, one, it's two, like all of the actors like in the sequel trilogy are very good. But I think that Adam and Harrison are probably in the top 3.
I mean, bro, Harrison only came back in Tross because of Adam Driver.
Yeah, this scene made me cry in the theater the first time I saw it, made me cry in the theater second time I saw it. it just has that emotional punch to it where you see and it's not like a one-way emotional thing. Like both of these characters are super emotional in this scene, and like you can see like Kylo voices the struggle that he's going through, but you can also see it physically, like in his posture, on his face. You can see it the same way in Han, like truly begging his son to like, look, like you can still come back. Like there's still a place for you in this world that isn't the path that you're going down. And like there's a moment where like first time you watch this, it's like you believe, like you really do think that
he
like
got through.
Yeah, that like he's there. Like, okay, like he can come back. And then like when you see the saber and like it's like it was such like a shocking moment, even though like logically there's nowhere else that scene can go. But the first time you're watching it, you're like, can he really get through to this kid? Like you don't know what's gonna happen next. Like there's a lot that could have happened in the sequel trilogy, even if Kylo switches back. But like it was just one of those moments for me where I was like, okay, like this moment cements TFA as like one of like, you know, like one of my Star Wars favorites for sure.
Yeah, it's a banger,
like,
man.
okay.
I mean, I don't care what people, it's a remake. Who gives a shit? It's a fucking banger. All right. TFA is a banger, and it's a goddamn shame what happened after it. So.
And like Ben said too, like that lighting cue, like when something moves in front of, like
it was
like you
perfect.
have that ray of light that was there.
You nailed it. Yeah. Well, that was all playing into the plot, right? Because once the light was gone, that means Starkiller Base completely drained the star, and it was getting ready to fire. So that was brilliant. Ray and Finn up there. Ray's scream, Chewie's scream, and his shot.
Yeah.
Goddamn. I mean, this is the most emotional you would ever expect Han Solo to be. It's probably beyond what people expected the character of Han Solo could even do. So yeah, man. I mean, it's a beautiful scene, and I know we talked about this when we went through the top moments of the sequel trilogy. But I think the most touching moment is after the deed is done, when Han reaches up and touches his son's face and basically just says, "It's all right, dude.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
Like don't worry." And we know what happens to Ben after this. He's broken to the point where he gets his ass kicked by Rey, and then he gets tormented by Snoke and TLJ and treated like a bitch to the point where he wants to smash his helmet. So
yeah.
All right, yeah, that is a standout, no doubt. That is as iconic as it gets, even for the sequel trilogy. All right, back to the animated universe in TCW. We're dealing with a clone death here, and it was a big one. We talked about the character last week as being in the most important tier. We kind of bumped him down. We didn't feel overall he was that big. But I think when it comes to emotions in the Clone Wars and within the clones themselves and that brotherhood that they had, especially in the 501 with the ARC Troopers, Rex, Fives, Echo, I mean, they all essentially were potted together. They were bonded. They were together since Kamino. And we all know what happened to Fives. He figured out the trick, and no one would believe him. So he literally died trying to tell his truth that would have prevented Order 66. Rex had to witness it. We got the image of Rex holding his dead body, and it was a touching moment for these warriors. It's like, it's probably the most emotional you've seen a Captain Rex. And I know for the Clone Wars generation, it is like Fives is one of their heroes. So this had to be on the list.
Yeah, it was a good one. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like, I don't remember this one too much. Like, I watched the Clone Wars a couple times, but like, it's heavy on content, and like, I just don't remember it that well. Like, I know that people are like, this is the guy who found out about the chips, and it's like, yeah, I guess, but like,
well, it was the way it all went. That like he found out because another clone essentially just whacks a Jedi. Like their chip goes crazy, and he just kills it, and he figures it out. And Anakin won't believe him, and he has to go to Palpatine. We know Palpatine. It was just like, you knew Fives was fucked. It's just like it was one of those tragic hero types of arcs where you knew no matter what he did, he was going to have to die for this knowledge.
Yeah.
All right,
but yeah, I mean, not too much on me.
Listen, we said we were going to have quicker ones here. We need them, so I'm glad Nick did not have much to say here. It'll pick up some time for us. Moving into the sequel trilogy. Princess Leia. Now, we'll never know what her true fate was going to be. She was supposed to make it to the final movie and be the last main not repurpose parts or her daughter standing in for her. But if you think about her death, it is kind of memorable. It is kind of iconic. She's holding Han's medal. R2 is with her. And ultimately, Nick, she more or less taps herself out to make a final plea statement, beg her son to fucking wake up. I mean, she literally dies as her son gets stabbed to kind of let him know, like, hey, it's come back. Your mom's thinking about you. I'm going to pass over for you to give you that strength.
I mean, bro, if you really think about the three main, like the three OT characters, they all died trying to get through to Kylo. All of them, all three of them.
Good point.
Like, and it was ultimately his mom that got it. But like Han, like we just talked about Han, like we'll talk about Luke in a little bit. But like all three of them, like none of them are talking to anybody else. They're like, if we can crack this kid from fucking going down this path.
It's a very astute point, Nick. I never thought about that way, but you're spot on. I mean, each one of them killed themselves for Kylo.
Yeah, and it's like it shows you how important this character was, and it's a shame to me that like there's not going to be more content around him because obviously he's dead. But like how important Kylo was that all three of the original trilogy badasses died trying to save this kid from
Someone
going down.
Someone said Nick a fucking medal.
Like it's crazy. And this one, like you were saying, ultimately what we got is not what we were supposed to get. Like this death brings up more questions of like, what if, or like if Carrie was still there, how could this have gone differently? But like in terms of what could be done given the circumstances, like I think they did the best they could, right? Like it was like ultimately his mother that saved him from a fate worse than death. I mean, I don't think that if he would have continued down the dark path that it would have been good for him. Ultimately, we know that he was a patsy anyway, and that he would have just been drained for his power to fuel Palpatine. So it was as good of a death that Leia could have gotten given the circumstances in real life, right? Like, and ultimately she was able to pull her son back from the brink and save him.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
B-Mad, there's the medal and a $5 for Nick. I will make sure he gets it. I'll send him the $5 maybe. All right. Yeah. Appreciate you, B-Mad. Always. Yeah. Rest in peace, Leia. It's a shame. Carrie, we really wish you could have finished this out, but we get it. You had to have one last banger on a plane, and I guess that's one way to go out. You know, gotta love her, man. I mean, substance is a bitch, but she literally didn't waver. I mean, she died with, I think, cocaine in her system. I mean, she was rocking and rolling. So
yeah, she was fully Carrie Fisher all the way to the end, which is like how like. Look, if you're going to live a life that's yours all the way till the end.
Please watch her special. I forget what it's called.
I've seen it before.
It is amazing. It's like, I think it's like, what, an hour 20, if that. I mean, she is just a brilliant orator, storyteller. It's so damn good. All right, next death. Who do we got? Well, hey, one of the most divisive. We can say that now. I mean, without a fact, the acolyte is the most divisive Star Wars property to date. 100%. It makes TLJ look like, fans were just having a small argument. But I do feel it had some iconic deaths, and the first one we're starting with is Master Soul. All right, if you think about the circumstances behind it, we are watching a Padawan dark side force choke out her former master. And as she's doing so, Nick, for the first time in live action, we are seeing her bleed a kyber crystal. Yeah. So just the visuals alone were huge. But the fact that we were seeing a Padawan kill their master in the fashion that she did it, and Saul apologizing and say, I forgive you, I get it, don't worry about it. And then the bleeding of the crystal into Osha's full transition into the dark side, it had to be on this list.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that it was acted so well by both parties. Like, yes. Like Soul, like, Lee on his knees, like actively crying as he's like staring at May or at Osha, and Amanda's face is just like, it's a mix of just like pain and hate that like, but it's not like this like vicious, like Maul style of like feral anger. it's like you can look in her eyes and her face is relatively stoic, but like you look in her eyes and you can just see like every ounce of betrayal that she feels for the years that Soul has lied to her, for the death of her, not just her mother, but her entire clan and her family, the divisive feelings that she had towards her sister because of Soul's lies, like everything, all of her life was essentially just a giant lie because of Soul. And like, just the way that it was acted, the furthering, like you were saying, going into with the Kyber crystal bleeding, it was just it was a moment where you're like, oh God, like you feel so bad for him, but at the same time, you're like, man, he really fucking deserves this.
Hey,
like,
he did kind of earn it. And then the best is Vernestra's like, hey, dead corpse, Soul, I'm gonna pin all this on you, by the way. Sorry, brother. Love you. See ya.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
And then you had Kamir in the background, like, oh, look at this shit. This is kind of wild. I mean, his reactions were great too. So it is definitely an iconic death. Up next, we've got Mr. Double Death here. I didn't do it the mall because whatever. His resurrection, believe it or not, still makes more sense than this horse shit. But we're talking about the magician, Mr. Arcane himself. Mr. He can save people from dying except himself. But he can in the end after 40 years. It is Palpatine, both his Jedi death and Tross. I'm always still going to keep his shaft death as his real death, Nick. I really think this Palpatine shit is what ultimately made the sequel trilogy just disgusting in the end. But boy, was it a moment the first time you saw it. He's sitting there fricasseeing Luke, and you're like, oh no, holy shit, what's going on here? Come on, Darth. And then sure enough, he does the look. Before the no, he picks him up, chucks him over, basically suicides himself, and we hear him falling down the hill, shooting his lightning like, no! Boom! We get the big energy release. And then, of course, he dies again in Tross by death by all Jedi, right? And essentially melts to death and explodes his Exegol temple.
Yeah. So here's something I want to bring up about the Palpatine Tross death, and I'm going to tie it back. This is another very interesting thing that they did. So if you remember all right, so we go back to Mace's death, right? Mace is sitting there. He has a Jedi with him, and he's actively doing the same thing that Rey's doing. Rey is deflecting lightning that Palpatine's shooting at her back onto him, and so was Mace. Mace was doing the same exact thing to him, but when it came down to it, the one Jedi that was there to back up Mace didn't back him up, and when Rey was doing it, the Jedi that were there in spirit backed her up, and she fucking knocked him out. Like, I just wanted to point that out because it was the same exact situation where she's like, he is like pouring lightning into somebody. They're blocking it back at him. But when it came down to it, Mace didn't have backup and Rey did. And that's why she won.
Well, she was all the Jedi. No, who would want to help Mace Windu, right? It's not going to be any of his friends. He was a dickhead. Yeah. So they're like, screw you.
Then, BMAT asking, isn't that a clone? It's a clone body, but it's his same essence. Yeah, it's his same soul.
I handled it. I mean, listen, and some of you are right. I mean, if Tross didn't go the Palpatine route, I think we might have been able to have a somewhat salvageable trilogy. But I'm sorry, I can never excuse that shit, and I kind of hate myself when it was first revealed in 2019 thinking it was going to be a cool idea.
Bro, it wasn't just you, it was everybody.
Yeah, we all got caught up like, oh yeah, this could work, right?
But also in 20 years you'll be like, I don't mind the sequels. Just like 20 years after the prequels, you're like, I don't mind the prequels.
I don't know.
It's gonna be the same shit.
We'll see. We'll see. I was young, dumb, and full of cum for the prequels, so I didn't have my head. I'm an old guy watching these, and I'm just like, man, it's hard to. And it's mostly Tross. Like, I mean, I'm not Mr. I hate TLJ. It's the worst movie ever. I just, whatever. We've been over this a million times. It's just the fucking dumbest model ever. Hey, let's let Nick write it, Matt direct it, then Joe Schmo write it, and Dickhead direct it, then Mary Sue write it, and Fatso direct it. What? All right. Screw you, Palpatine. You used to have an iconic death. Now you're just making me angry talking about it. So we're going to move on. All right. I bet people probably weren't thinking about the Mandoverse, Mandalorian in particular, but it did have some iconic deaths, especially in season 1. Maybe just in season 1. And the first one we're talking about is IG-11. I mean, this was a moment. I remember this. I didn't get all teary-eyed, but it was definitely a feels type of moment. So remember, this is the finale, S1E8. IG-11 has already healed Din from almost dying by convincing him to take his helmet off because he's not a sentient being. But then once they get to this lava river and they're on that skiff and they realize that there's an ambush at the end, IG-11 takes it upon himself to walk through the lava as he is slowly melting, to then detonate himself, taking out essentially a full platoon of troopers, allowing Din, Grogu, Greef, and the band to escape. It was one of those, it's not, I wouldn't say it's as emotional as K2, but it definitely had similar vibes, and where you had this droid recognizing that it could do something good for other beings, and it made that choice thanks to Kuiil's programming.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a death of purpose, and I think that's one thing. If you are if you're watching a movie or if you're watching something, it always feels better when a death feels like it has a purpose. And for IG-11, that's exactly what it was, and ultimately, that's what a droid's job is, right? Like a droid, a droid is built for a specific purpose, and if it can't fulfill that purpose, then it's even the droid itself will have questions about its
well,
what
dude,
is its
you
existence
remember
about?
You remember
Yeah.
IG-11 before he was even reprogrammed, when him and Mando are going after the bounty. When he thinks he's pinned down, what does he do? He's like, "Oh, fuck it, I'm just gonna blow myself up."
Yeah.
He's like,
Dude,
hey,
it's
you can't get my computer parts, so my manufacturer told me I gotta die. And this was a different scenario, but he was sacrificing himself for his friends, which in turn got him a statue in the city of Navarro.
Yeah.
So
Well deserved. Deserved.
It was a good one. All right.
I like how Jared's Tross is my favorite sequel. I don't know if he's joking or not.
Well, I said,
feel like he's
don't
telling
kid
the
me.
truth.
He probably is. He's not much
I feel like
of
he's telling the truth. You know what, dude? It's not my favorite, but it's all Tross ranks it up higher than AOTC for me. I still think that AOTC, it's the Star Wars movie that I've watched the least.
It's so campy now. Dude, just put it on one time this year before the calendar flips. Go through the damn prequels again as a grown ass man. You have to.
I've watched them all again, but it's the one that I watched the least, and rightfully so. That movie was bad in every respect. There was
the
nothing.
Camp is just too strong these days. It's so good.
And it's I guess if I watch if that movie was animated, if that was animated like the Clone Wars feature was animated, it would be more watchable.
Because my favorite is Ewan McGregor just comes off as a buffoon. He looks like an idiot with that mullet, but then he even delivers his lines like a dope something. He's like,
so bad.
This lightsaber is your life. Don't loot it.
It's so bad, and it's it's one of
Bat
those
said,
things
do
where
drugs, eat some mushrooms, and watch it.
Oh, dude, I've watched them stoned for sure. I've seen every Star Wars movie stoned, 100%.
All right, well then you need the fungus. If the weed's not working, up at the fungus to get through AOTC.
I just don't think that and here's what I'll say too. TPM watchable. AOTC, it's just a full skip for me. And then ROTS is actually probably the prequel movie that I've watched the most. And it's
TPM's the winner there.
It's because for ROTS, 2/3 of TPM is just unwatchable. 2/3 of TPM is sitting there doing nothing, watching somebody fucking play dice games. You're walking around on a desert planet and you have no fun. It's just
you guys thought I was angry about the prequels.
But it's just to me, I'm not going to sit down and watch all of TPM for fun. I'll put it on from when they introduce Maul to the end. But I can put on ROTS and even though that movie has a ton of its own flaws, it's more fun to watch than TPM.
Okay. All right.
That's the reason why I can watch ROTS more than any other prequel. It's because it's more fun to watch.
Nick, for the sake of time, I'm going to cut off your blasphemy for AOTC so we can move on. But well said. Well said. Opus clip a lot of his shit. Thank you. All right, our next death here. This is one Nick wanted to get in, and I agreed with him. It is visually and for the surprise, it had to make this list, and that is Snoke getting cleaved in half as he's talking shit to Rey, thinking that he is speaking into existence her death at the hands of Kylo, when in fact he was narrating his own demise at the hands of Kylo. I mean, I'm telling you, look, TLJ, say what you want about it. That throne room moment where you're really like, what the hell's going on here? And then that happens, and Rey and Kylo team up and start kicking ass, and you're like, whoa, what? I didn't anticipate this. It was quite a shock. We were as shocked as Snoke when it happened. So yeah, for the shock value alone, Nick, I think this scene has to be talked about.
Yeah, it's like there was so much anticipation in that scene, like him essentially narrating somebody else's death. Like they're both on the floor, like they're both kneeling on the ground. Like he is sitting there narrating what he expects to be Rey's death. And then you just see the saber turning, and you see Kylo's hand turning, and you're like, wait, what? Like you're not sure what's going to happen. And then when he ignites it and it goes right through him, you're just like, oh, like it was just such a good scene. And it was so well orchestrated. And while TLJ is probably like third in terms of my tier for the sequel trilogy, like there are some moments in here where you can see Ryan like dialing in his style and like really producing some awesome moments. And this is probably the best one in this movie, is like this is Snoke's death scene. It was just so well executed.
Yeah, it's just like I said, just the surprise. The first time you saw it, it just was not something you were necessarily anticipating, and then the visual execution was just awesome. Like Devin was fantastic. Saying, the saber coming back, Kylo catching it or whatever. I mean, just good shit. All right.
Yeah.
And our next death. Ooh, this is gonna be a tough one.
I say this one's going to be this one. Matt may cry on this one.
I think I'll be all right. I think I can get through as long as I don't watch this reel I'm going to share with everyone in the chat to get them crying after we talk about it. But we've kind of made it to the halfway point here. We're moving all right. But this one, I'm not going to shit anyone here. I mean, I can't remember a more just raw emotion moment than Kanan Jarrus's sacrifice for his friends in the final season of Rebels. It is to this day, it stands out. Anytime I watch it, I get, I feel a little funny in the face and got to choke some shit back because I'm a man. But I shared this in the Discord. I forgot who shared it with me, but someone laid the Deadpool vs. Wolverine version of Like a Prayer on Kanan's death.
Oh yeah.
And I like I said, I'm going to share it here in the chat for all you to watch and weep in the corner of a room. But Kanan's death to me is, I don't know if it can be beaten in terms of, like I said, just raw emotion. Seeing him, knowing that he was choosing his death to save his lover and his friends, his Padawan, Sabine, Ezra, Hera, holding back that explosion, using the Force so hard that it gives him his vision back to let him see his family one last time before he dies. It's a cartoon. That's what blew me away the first time. I mean, when I watched this the first time, I'm talking like sobbing tears. When I watched it the second time with my kid when she was young, going through a Rebels rewatch, I told her, I was like, hey, this could be a little rough. And she turns around and looks at her dad, and she's just like, holy shit, Dad, why are you crying? And recently, preparing these assets, watching the clip again, Kanan's death is as iconic as it gets. I don't know if there's a more emotionally taxing death in all of Star Wars, and the fact that it's a fucking cartoon just gives it that extra stamp of approval.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the best animated death in Star Wars. Maybe the best animated death ever. Like, I don't watch too much animated stuff, but this is just next level awesome. Like you said, getting his vision back so he can look at the crew and his family one last time.
Hair is like just screaming. He's just sitting there all stoic, like, I got you.
Yeah, and just the way that it was like that it was shot, and I'm saying shot because like most people don't realize that even in animation there's camera work that needs to be done. Like there's inside of an animation software there is a camera that you place and that you can move and zoom and do everything you can with a regular camera. So like the camera work on this is fantastic. Like the pulled out shot where you see like the fire encroaching and like growing around him, and then him pushing everybody back into the ship to get out of there. His, like you said, his eyes clarifying, and like is fantastic. I mean, this may be one of the best deaths in Star Wars period, regardless of animated or live action.
That's what I mean. I mean, I'm playing the clip now, not with audio, and I'm already getting goosebumps. Just, oh Jesus! I mean, it is just amazing. Look at him there, holding the blast, fighting it back out of love. Hera running forward. Ezra can't contain her. No, pushes her back. And here it is when he turns and his vision comes back. My God. Yeah. What a scene, people. So this I'm gonna share in the live stream chat. So if you are listening on the podcast version, maybe we'll put it in the post. But you can always pull up there's the vision. You could always pull it up in the live chat replay. I'll have the link in there. It's going in there right now. I recommend everyone check that out. That is in the live stream. If you feel like you know getting a little emotional as you watch the rest of the Star Wars Time show, because it works. They're not. This person's not lying. Slapping like a prayer on random Star Wars scenes can kind of hit you in the feels. So there you go. That's a big one there. Let's move on before I get a little too sad. All right, here's a palate cleanser, though. Owen and Beru. And I kind of teased this last week, and I assume most people probably wouldn't expect this to be on this list. But if you just look at the visuals here, man, I mean, literally charred skeleton remains. The Empire lit them on fire as they were running out of their hovel. Mm-hmm. It was such a shock. And I remember as a kid, you know, Luke's like, fuck you. I got to work with my aunt and uncle, man. I can't leave yet. I got to do what I got to do. He goes back there and he rolls up and he's like, Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru, Uncle Owen, Beru. And then the music kicks in. Obviously, Williams knows how to fucking make men cry. And you see the bodies and you see the emotions on Luke. And then, you know, the Force theme kicks in because, you know, right there, that kid's destiny is changing forever. And it was also pretty graphic in terms of Star Wars deaths. So this one I do think earned a spot on this list.
Yeah, I think it's level setting, right? Like up to this point, we had seen the brutality of the Empire to a certain degree, mostly through Vader. In the Tantive Force and stuff like that. But like this really shows you the level that the Empire will go to just find some fucking droids, bro. Like this isn't like they're not hunting down Luke Skywalker at this point. They don't even fucking know he's there. Like this is some droids that now after watching Rogue One, like they know like all right, they have the plans on it, so it's big, but like they lit these people on fire, like people that they didn't even know. Like they didn't even know if these people were like Rebel
sympathizers. They just knew Jawas sold them droids.
Yeah, it's like, and it wasn't like they ran out and they were like, we know who Darth Vader really is. Like they were just some motherfuckers who were like, bro, I just bought some
Obi-Wan
droids.
Kenobi's still alive.
Yeah, it's like, dude, they just get roasted for no reason. And it really does kind of level set you on like, oh, well, like if you step on the wrong side of the Empire, they will literally set you on fire.
Yeah.
Like,
and honestly, not to get into Outlaws talk, but highly recommend go to the Lars homestead on Tatooine, and they directly reference the brutality of the Empire. Like, Kay essentially sees the hovel and was like, holy fuck, what happened here? And, you know, conversation ensues. So just another highlight of Outlaws. But yeah, this was a rough one. And if you just want to talk about in-universe impact, without this happening, Luke remains a farm boy. So yeah, big shit in universe too. All right, back to Rogue One here. And I lumped this together because they essentially die right after each other. And it's Baze and Chirrut. Chirrut kind of leads the death train here with his, I am one with the Force is with me. Literally a blind guy walking across an active fire battlefield to turn off a jammer, which he does do, and then obviously dies. And then his brother Baze runs out, homie, not actual blood brother, runs out to hold his friend, caress him, again, in the middle of live fire, and decides, you know what, fuck it. If Chirrut's out, I'm going out like a boss too, and just starts blasting death troopers until one gets a grenade that stumbles next to his place of killing. So Baze and Chirrut, their relationship, Chirrut's sacrifice, and then Baze going out for his brother, definitely a standout death from Rogue One.
Yeah, I mean, Rogue One at the end obviously has a lot of powerful death scenes. I think that this is, if I had to rank them, I would say K2's was 1.
Yep.
And I think that this one is 2.
Agreed.
I think that because of Chirrut, like if it was just Baze running out there like a psycho and then getting axed, then that's one thing. But like Chirrut, the whole time you did kind of feel like, is the Force like protecting this dude? Like this is somebody who does not have, like as far as we knew, could not access the Force. Like he was a guardian of the Wills. They were both guardians of the temple that was on Jeddah.
Yeah, I mean, he believed in the Force. He had his mantra.
Yeah. But you didn't know if he could actually tap into it. But if you're watching that death, you're like, holy shit, is the Force literally protecting this guy? It was fantastic the way that it was executed, and like the way that Baze was there the whole time, like trying to protect him. Like the Force is protecting him to a degree, yeah, but also Baze is out there fucking mowing people down,
right? Like
trying to protect this dude. And Nick,
it's like I'm gonna kind of equate it to Band of Brothers, World War II. I mean that's who these two were, and that's how they died. They died on the field of battle, and they died for each other, and they died sacrificing themselves for the greater good, for freedom. So it is. I mean, Rogue One definitely has a lot of emotional deaths, and they were all sacrifices, right? They were all so the rebellion could move on.
Yeah.
Next up, going back to Acolyte. And this one, I mean, honestly, for the visuals alone, the brutality, just the choreography, the fight itself, but Jecki. I mean, listen, she wasn't with us for a long time, only 5 episodes. But my goodness, was her death a glorious thing to behold, a sad death. It was one of the more brutal deaths that didn't involve a decapitation, Nick, with the, when Kamir blocks her and then pulls out, the shoho or the soho, and he's like, top, literally triple taps her, gets her like in the throat, two in the abdomen there. An amazing kill after an amazing fight. So Jecki, you make this list. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fantastic
Rip Jecki, hashtag Soul's fault. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, 100% Soul's fault. It's like you brought, and then like the thing that made it even colder was Kamir's line after. It's like, you brought her here. Yeah. Like just so dismissive.
No, and he calls her it.
Yeah, you brought it here. Like
he's like, oh, that's what you call it?
It's like, dude, it's just, it was cold from that moment, and it was like, and the thing is like, it was a good death for Jecki, right? Like Jecki went out like a boss. Like she was, I don't know how many Padawan
she got his
were
helmet
there.
off, man. She cracked his helmet.
And like, she was able to fight past the saber, like deigniting, like powering down and then powering back up. Like for a Padawan, she gave Kamir a decent little row.
Yeah. He had to essentially cheat and pull out his little side blade and do the in out. So
yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. So like, props to Jecki. You put up a fucking hell of a fight, right? And like, you had a good death. Like I said, when this show came out, what you want as a character is a good death. This is a good death.
100%. Don't you worry, Sir Dork and Be Mad. Don't you worry about Yord. He there's a good chance he might be on this list too.
Yeah.
Up to the Mando era, we talked about his work on IG-11 and how that kind of gave him the ability to have a hero's death, a sacrificial death. And Kuiil himself had a great one. And honestly, I remember when I first saw this, it was very sad. it was very sad to see Kuiil get taken out by the scout troopers as they were running him down to grab Grogu, as Din and the rest were kind of pinned down in Navarro there in that bar. But the little guy, the Ugnaught, I mean, just the way it happened, you knew the way they're shooting, you're like, oh, he's got no chance. He's not going to make it back. They're going to get him. You're like, oh, he might make it back. And then they just cut to it. You see the scout troopers zipping away with the backpack. And then you see this little body on the black dirt in Navarro. And it's just like, damn. And it was touching because once Mando or Din comes back, he builds him a little memorial. He builds him a grave, leaves his skull cap and pilot goggles on it, and hits the road. So Kuiil, you weren't with us for very long like Jecki, but again, you made an impact on the Star Wars fandom. Yeah. I mean, Kuiil's another one that like I really don't remember too much about his death, honestly. Like, but he, like, the impact that, like, again, like his death was more kind of like Satine's, where it was the impact on the people around him more than his death in particular, because he was kind of the person that taught. He was really the first person that like taught Din like about life outside of his interactions just as a bounty hunter, and then obviously his work with IG-11 and stuff. But yeah, I mean, like Kuiil's one that I like. Yeah, like, does he deserve to be on here? Sure, but like it was another one where I was like, yeah, whatever. We can add Kuiil to here. It wouldn't have bothered me if he wasn't on this list. I'll put it that way. I think you might need to go watch it because it's a little more emotional than I think your memory is serving you right now. But
I don't know. But I remember a lot of other ones. But I mean, maybe right. I do. Maybe
Fuck you, Kuiil. You suck. Next. All right. This one.
He's a forgettable character.
This one is a good one. It's one of the few earned deaths in Star Wars. This character was forever gone, and thank goodness they did not try to resurrect him in the final season of his series. So, of course, we're talking about Tech from Bad Batch. And it was similar to a lot of these deaths, at least from the good guys, where you have this hero sacrificing themselves for their brothers, their sisters, their family, their quasi-family, their cause. And it was just one of those. It's just one of those deaths where it was shocking. You were not expecting it. The way it went down was very honorable and sad. Mm-hmm. Like, you had Wrecker there, like, no, and Omega's watching it, and the way Tech was, he was just so matter of fact. He was almost like a droid, and he was sparing no emotion. He's like, listen, guys, like, execute whatever number it was. This is the only option. You got to trust me. I'm doing this for the team. Peace out. And, he cuts himself loose. And obviously you have the call back with the goggles to kind of keep punching you in the gut a little bit. But it was from the Bad Batch and really from animated Star Wars, it stands out. I mean, it's no Kanan death, but it's up there because it was earned. And it was emotional in the moment for what his crew was going through.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the best moments from Bad Batch, in my opinion, is like, this made it feel like, okay, like you're like in season 2, like you're starting to get to a level that is like, okay, we're like not as good as Clone Wars and Rebels, but like we're doing our own thing. We have some very emotionally emotionally pulling moments. Like we can do things similar to what we did in other shows as well. And like Tech, it was the guy that like had no emotion that elicited the most emotion, which I think is very poetic. That it was literally calculus to him. He's like, look, if I don't do this, we're all fucking toast. Like, and it was in his nature as the analytical person to be like, this is our best shot of the most people surviving. And I think it was a good death for Tech. I'm glad that they didn't do some sort of like resurrection bullshit like we were speculating that they could do in season 3. I'm glad that they left him dead because his death was a good one for sure. But as BMAD says, hashtag Tech lives. Nobody who falls into nothingness is ever dead in Star Wars. So
That's right. Here's a random one. Anyone that uses Ring, if you get the neighborhood alerts, do you get as many "did you hear a gunshot" posts as I do?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just got well. You're in Texas. I mean, hell, your pets have guns down there.
I live in Texas, and I also live near like a hunting area for doves, and it's like apparently now it's like dove hunting season.
So you got people popping off left and right.
I literally I never posted because I'm just so used to it now. There was one that I like actually wrote something about because it was like successive gunfire at like midnight, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? But yeah, I do get a lot of did anybody hear gunshots?
Dude, no, I mean literally mine's like, hey, it's like on this random street. Is there any dead bodies out there? I mean, that's like the ones I'm getting. Let's just say I live a little close to Columbus. I'm in the suburbs, but it's it's right there on the edge of the city. So you never know. That's right. Pets do have guns in Texas. Everything is bigger in Texas. Moving on here, back to Mando. I know we talked about this guy. I forget. Maybe important deaths. Maybe no, we're doing important moments. Maybe, who knows? But we're talking about the big guys, the heavy Mandalorian sacrifice in Mandalorian Season 3, Paz Vizsla, kind of taking one for the team. Very similar to Tech here, except way more brutal way to go out. When Paz, after all his beef with Din and Bo and, the helmet wearers and the Creed lovers, once they banded together and they ran into a shitstorm, he was the one that took it upon himself to essentially save the day. Remember, he locked them out. Mm-hmm. Sealed the door behind them and went toe-to-toe with all those super commandos. And then when they couldn't stop him and they sent out the Praetorians, he tried his best but fell to their purple blades. R.I.P. big guy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a cool death to watch for sure. It was a sacrifice. I mean, I wonder how many of these, if we go back, are would we consider sacrifices, right? Because I think a lot of deaths in Star Wars are sacrifices.
I think they all are so far. If you think about it, you can probably spin it in a sacrifice of some sort.
Yeah, at least, and
Maul was probably the only one.
Snoke wasn't a sacrifice. That one. Yeah, and then Palpatine too. But yeah, it was a good sacrificial moment. It makes sense for his character too, because ultimately, there was really no other person that could have done it. You're not going to send in one of your main characters to sacrifice himself, and if you send in some random no-name motherfucker, nobody's going to care. So it was written on the wall that he had to go out like that. But it was good. He held his own for as long as he could versus multiple combatants. And then it was relatively brutal death too. They didn't just kind of push him off the side of the thing.
Yeah, he got the old medieval neck stab where they come down on your neck into your torso. Then he got body stabs.
Yeah. So
the other thing that kind of made it stand out and did make it feel kind of heroic and sacrificial is that he had such a contentious relationship with every Mandalorian that wasn't in the Kool-Aid gang. Din in particular, literally wanted to kill Din, but by the end of the season, he kind of got over his shit and was willing to step up for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
next death here. I know Nick will like this one. L337, aka Leet from Solo. You remember, Nick? She just kicked off a droid uprising on Kessel by accident. Dude. It's fantastic. I love that moment. Dude, literally, so cool. Everything's going to shit. Their mission on Kessel has been absolutely upended. There's just utter chaos everywhere. Wookiees are running around trying to get out. The Pikes are in there fighting. It's just an absolute mess because of Leet and the team that goes there. But as she's coming out, as she's leading her droids to freedom and victory to get back on the Falcon, she gets blasted. Literally blasted to the part where she can't move. Lando freaks out. He clearly has a strong emotional tie to her. He runs out, grabs what he can. I think it was her torso or maybe just her head and gets her onto the ship. And ultimately we know that her passing leads to the Falcon Navicomputer becoming probably the best Navicomputer in the galaxy thanks to her programming. But another droid death, maybe not as emotional as the K2, But definitely for Lando and her, kind of watching that dynamic play out and seeing him lose a companion, that's kind of where it hit.
Yeah, I mean, this was a fantastic moment, and it was acted so well by Donald and Phoebe. I think that like that emotional connection and that visceral reaction from Han is what really kind of elevates this scene. And it's a similar thing, like you were saying to K2, like you can hear the droid like gears starting to like whir down, and like, but like the desperation of Lando to try to salvage whatever he can from L3 was what really made that scene so impactful. And it really like, it brought it to an emotional level that it wouldn't have been at if it was just L3 dying on her own. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. It was a moment that was really well done in Solo. And like, honestly, there's so many like little moments like this in Solo that like, I just don't understand why people like took umbrage with this movie. It's insane to me.
You understand. It was a payback for the TLJ grievances.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Whatever. It's the boycott crowd, which I guess the new boycott now is Coca-Cola, because apparently you can't print Jesus on a fucking can. So yeah.
Wait, what? Dude, I don't. Like,
Nick, just delete.
They have Jesus on a can of Coke?
Well, I guess Coke has a deal now. You can go to a website and get your name fucking printed on cans or whatever on cans.
Oh.
And some person wanted Jesus on it and couldn't get it. So now, you know.
I mean, maybe his name was Jesus.
Coke is the Antichrist because, you know, they hate Christianity now. So all that shit.
Yeah, if my name was Jesus, I would want to get my name on a bottle too. But whatever, I don't give a fuck. I don't drink Coke, so I don't care.
Jesus, straight up. All right, next death we have Padme and her ridiculous passing of a broken heart and rots. I mean, listen, it is iconic because it's the fucking twins' mom dying in birth, so it kind of revealed that to us, why she was never around. It also, again, broke a little canon, because how the fuck did Leia know what her mom looked like and that she was always sad unless she picked it up through the Force as a fucking newborn? But it's kind of a ridiculous scene, but it is iconic for the effect it has on the galaxy. Okay, so I guess I can put it at that, Nick. I mean, any way you could further besmirch the death of Padme?
Dude, like, we talk about good deaths. This was an awful death. This was the worst. You feel
no emotions.
Death.
You're actually like, this makes me feel weird.
It's like, dude, what? Like, this woman in childbirth in an advanced society where they literally have spaceships that can fly beyond the speed of light.
Oh my God.
And this lady dies in this is the most ridiculous bullshit I've ever seen in my life.
Not even childbirth. Like, she literally dies of a broken heart. Like, and it's so creepy. You got that bot there with like that vaginal shovel, right?
Yeah, it's like,
and it's going like, ooh da, ooh da. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here?
It's so bad, dude. Like, it's so bad, and it is iconic because she dies, and like she is. It
explains something we all wanted to see.
Yeah, like, and like, by virtue of her character just being the father or being the mother to the twins, like, her death has to be iconic. But they could not have done a worse job at this. Like, they couldn't have done worse at like how Padme died.
Terrible.
Like, honestly, it was disgusting. And like, the fact that like this does not get brought up more and is actually awful. Like,
yeah, I mean, Ben's right. I mean, it's more sad when you see her dead body in the funeral on Naboo than it is watching her die.
But it's like she is the mother of like the savior twins of the galaxy, and she goes out from like a broken heart. Like, dude, like, it just feels bad that like they could not honor this character better.
Terrible. Like, poor Natalie had to like act out this scene, and Ewan, she's like, they're still good at that.
And then it's just like she's literally like laying there after she's given birth, after she's named both of the kids. She tells Obi-Wan like she's fine, like she's talking,
still good in 'em.
She's okay, and then all of a sudden it's just like she closes her eyes and she's dead.
Yeah, and that
it's
stupid
like,
bot's like,
It's just like, dude.
And you guys
like,
trying to tell me Revenge of the Sith is the fucking cat's meow? I mean, give me a break. This was handled just as poorly as Anakin's transition to the dark side, for Christ's sake. All right? We're not going to spend any more time on this. We've already gotten off the rails too much with the prequels today. But this death only made the list because of the implications to the overall story of Anakin Skywalker and his children. That's it. It's the only reason this is on this list.
I feel bad. Hashtag justice for Padme.
I love Padme.
She deserves. Well, honestly, though, like, Padme is the ultimate
you
villain
hypocrite.
of the Star
You hate
Wars
Padme.
universe.
What are you talking about?
But honestly, even for being the ultimate villain of the Star Wars universe, she deserved a better death.
There you go. I like that. I like that qualification there. Very good, young Nick. I like that. Yeah, it was a shame. If Gallard was in control, her death would have made sense, because the way he explained it to us, he was going to have Anakin essentially brain smash her against the ship. Like, it would have been very evident that her body would not have recovered from that. Sad man, that's right. It's such a bad scene. Such a bad scene. All right, we'll move on. Bad. We're not going to shit on Padme for too long. All right, sticking in prequels here. He was one of the first Jedi we saw in the prequels. He was there with his Padawan on this Trade Federation ship to negotiate on behalf of the Supreme Chancellor. He identified the Chosen One. He cheated to get the Chosen One. He tried to go toe-to-toe with Maul. He tried to be in the living force, but it wasn't enough. The death of Qui-Gon happened in that reactor room on Naboo. And it's more or less his death it's huge because, as we learned from Filoni, if he never would have died, Anakin probably would have gone on and become the Chosen One, the greatest ever, and never would have dipped. It also forced Obi-Wan to become an unwilling participant in Anakin's training. The only reason Obi-Wan ever trained Anakin is because it was Qui-Gon's dying wish. Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. This may be controversial, or this may be like a hot take. This death is purely on him. Like, he knows he's got his backup sitting there. He's got to wait 15 seconds, maybe. Like, all he has to do is buy time. Like, all you got to do is just
like ran around in circles until Obi-Wan got to
like parry, back up, play defense, whatever. Like, all you have to do is just wait it out.
He gets him with a juke, man. He literally goes like, doop, pop.
Yeah, and it's like, bro, you are a Jedi Master. You are, like, well respected amongst your peers. Like, you may have some thoughts that are, like your perception of the Jedi Order may be a little bit outside, but whatever. Like, you are well respected in every respect. Like, you are a good lightsaber combatant. You're strong in the Force. You're very intelligent. You're very thoughtful.
Strong in the living Force, Nick.
In the living Force. And, like, you can't wait 30 seconds until your backup shows up so you can 2v1 this dude and just be like, all right, that's toast, taken care of. Like, that's it. Obi-Wan is literally staring at you. Like, one pain away. And what do? You fuck it up.
You get got.
Yeah, like, he literally, like, you could, like you said, he could have fucking run in circles around that reactor hole.
Like, he's playing keep away with Maul until Obi-Wan gets there.
I understand that narratively, like, it has to happen, but fuck, dude, like, you couldn't have it to where Obi comes out. Like, I feel like it would have been better that, like, if Obi comes, it would have been better for Qui-Gon's death. If Obi comes out, they're 2v1ing and he still gets got. Like, Maul's just that good. Like, Maul just gets a 2v1 kill on Qui-Gon, and then Obi powers up and takes him out. But dying 1v1 versus some random Sith apprentice that, like, you can literally just wait 20 seconds and you have the numbers advantage. Inexcusable for a Jedi Master. Great, inexcusable.
Dude. This has to make a clip, hopefully. Use the new clip anything and prompt it. No, that was fantastic, young Nick. I love that. Literally, it was so left field, but I kind of get your points. It does make sense. So yeah, Qui-Gon, you're a schlub, bro. You earned it.
It's not a good
That's
death.
why you could not come back from a lightsaber to the torso, because you deserved it, motherfucker.
It's like we're talking about good deaths and bad, like Jackie, good death, this bad death. Like honestly, it's not a good death, dude. Like your out was literally 15 seconds away and 20 feet away.
It.
All you had to do was wait.
All right, moving on. Holy shit, that was good. All right, there it is. All you were worried about it when we brought up Jackie talking about how brutal it is. Of course, we're going to include Yord. Do you remember young Nick talking about this? It got him hard. I mean, it is very intense because it doesn't involve a gun or a laser sword. It just involves some good old muscles and a quick neck twist. So yeah, I mean, seeing Khmer literally hold a Jedi on his knees and then fully snap his neck in half like it was nobody's business. Definitely an iconic death in Star Wars.
Dude, oh God, like every time I watch this, just the snap, like that visceral snap is just like, oh, like it takes your breath. It's like, oh my God. Like it was just one of those things too. It's like he has him there in front of him while he's talking to Saul.
He's multitasking.
And then you're like, what is he going to do? Like, is he going to like stab him in the back? Is he going to like, you kind of have a beat to be like, what's going to happen here? And then just the swiftness with which he breaks his neck and then just discards his body is like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like that is something that we have never seen before in Star Wars. Like that is a level of brutality, even though it's not like visually as like, oh my God, he got stabbed 3 times or she got stabbed 3 times with a lightsaber like Jackie. Like this is worse. This is worse than Jackie's death.
100%.
Because it's just like you're beaten, you're on your knees. And this dude literally with one hand.
It was an execution.
It
was an execution.
Yeah, it was just so disgusting. It was like, oh my God. Yeah, it was one of those, like when I saw it live, it literally like I vocally was like, oh, yeah. Like it was. No,
and
crazy.
I'm like you. Like I even have a hard time watching people at a chiropractor or listening to that. And I used to do that shit. And I'm like, why did I used to do that? Because hearing people's neck crack just doesn't seem natural. So I agree. Yord, you were not the man, but you definitely died like the man. Okay.
Yeah.
Up next, here he is. Luke Skywalker, TLJ. Nick still has that very astute point, just in case you're new here. But Nick, he highlighted for us all, even though they've been out for years at this point, that all of the OT mains died in the sequel trilogy trying to connect and get a message across, try to teach Kylo Ben Solo something. And we are now talking about Luke. You know, we talked about how ridiculous the concept of his death was. He literally overforced himself. I mean, hell, Rebuild the Galaxy is making fun of this shit. Like, they're even making fun of it in universe now. That's how ridiculous it was. But the actual moment, Nick, I think we can, give a little bit of credence when he's sitting there on Acto, staring at the, evoking memories of his farm boy past, staring at the twin sons of Acto. It's like, okay. And then he just disappears and his cape floats out. But I'd say out of the big 3, he has the shittiest death.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Bat saying that he wasn't really trying to get a point across. I disagree with that. Like, go and listen to everything that he's saying to Kylo. Like, he's saying,
you're an idiot. Like, just realize you're an idiot.
And like, while like his mom and his dad, Kylo, like while Han and Leia were being much more like parent to him, like Luke was being like an uncle. He's like, bro, are you fucking dumb? Like, do you not realize what happened to Darth Vader? Like, while it may not be as sweet and touching as Leia and Han, he was trying to get across a message that was as important. And it is the person that you're trying to be, ultimately, at the end of his life, regretted everything he did. Do you not realize that? Like, he's trying to get that across to Kylo to be like, yeah, I'm not going to be like your mom or your dad and like come and hug you and love you and be like, don't worry, there's still room for you here. Like, he is trying to tell him that like this path that you're walking down is only going to lead to bad things for you. Like you may get some wins in the galaxy as the bad guy, but ultimately your life will be unfulfilling and you'll regret everything that you do.
I mean, he's like, hey, listen, you're wrong about this. You're wrong about the Jedi. You're wrong about the Resistance. Ha ha ha! In your face, like Bat said. See you around, kid.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it is literally like. While the message is not soft, it is a pointed message at Kylo.
Like you're fucking up. You're a fuck up. Do better. Do better, Kylo.
This death for Luke Skywalker, disgusting. It sucks. Awful. It's the worst way that you could have killed this character. I'm convinced.
So stupid.
Like there is no worse way you could have killed Luke Skywalker than to say that he used the Force too hard. Like that's just so fucking
I mean, he
stupid.
essentially this character had an off-screen death.
Yeah.
And it's 100%. Like, what?
And bro, like I get it. Like it's a sacrificial death, but like
sacrifice yourself in person then at least. Like get fucking stabbed or get blown up. Like don't die because you fucking forced hard.
Yeah, and it's like I just will never get over that because it's like, dude, we've seen people do some fucking crazy shit with the Force, crazier than like projecting yourself onto a different planet. Like that's not like, dude, seriously? Like, I just don't think that like there was any like, I don't know, dude. Like, was there any thought put into this? Like, it was just so fucking bad. Like, and for the most iconic character in your franchise, right? Like this dude, like we talk about Anakin and we talk about like his impact on the franchise. Like Luke's is equal. Like I know that like Anakin technically like, I mean, Anakin and Luke have equal movies. Technically, they both have 6, but yeah, dude, like this is awful. Like the way that they fucking knocked this dude out, and like like it's iconic. It's an iconic death because it has to be because it's Luke Skywalker's death. But this was disgusting. Like.
And I've always said this about TLJ. Look, I was not upset with cranky Luke because his predecessors were the same thing. They quit. Once they fucked up, they quit. That's exactly what Luke was doing. Where I disagree with this treatment of Luke, and I think Mark is why he hated this so much and called him Jake, was the way Luke acted to his friends. All right.
He treated them like complete dog shit, which is I
mean, Rey, maybe she's a stranger, but fucking Chewbacca, like, come on, dude. Like, it's just Luke. I don't care how depressed and sad you are. Luke doesn't act like a dick. Okay.
Yeah. Like just the most out of character portrayal of that character that you could have possibly done.
He doesn't really even become Luke again until Yoda makes fun of him and says, "Hey, idiot, quit being an idiot." But even it was too late at that point. All right, let's move on. It's fucking Luke.
Ben Rice says Luke should have died in 9. I'm sure if they would have and here's the thing, is like I'm sure if they would have known that Carrie wasn't going to be around, they would have saved Luke.
Yeah, I think
until 9.
I think that's one of the main reasons Colin Trevorrow ended up leaving because he kind of wanted to keep using Luke. And
Carrie.
Right, and Luke, I think, would have been a heavy Force Ghost presence. I think Luke was always meant to die in 7 or 8. I'm sorry, but
8.
Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah. Whatever. It's sequels. It's really all you can say these days. All right, back to Rogue One. We'll talk about the final pair to perish there, and it's the leads, the ones that kind of were leading the Rogue One platoon. They did the heavy lifting. They got the data disk. They transmitted it to the Raddus. They accomplished a mission at the sacrifice of their lives and their budding relationship. So they decide, you know what? Let's hug this one out. We probably would have ended up fucking, maybe having a family, but see that green light? That's pretty much it. So. Nice to know you, Cassian. Nice to know you, Jin. We did something good. We've redeemed ourselves. We're heroes. And now we are vaporized.
Yeah, I don't like this one that much. Right. I'm going to be honest.
Fair enough.
This is my least favorite of the endgame deaths at Rogue One because of the hug. I thought the hug was just awful. Like, I thought that for these two characters, for most of the movie, they fucking really didn't like each other. Like they were working together for sure. And then like when Tony came in, he was like, I've now decided that they're going to try to become a couple on the last 2 hours of them being alive. Like that's just kind of how that got handled. And I think it would have been better if they both just posted up, sat down on the sand right at the edge of the water, and just looked at the blast as it came towards them. The hug really fucking
pulled out some
ruined it
death
for me.
sticks, had a little last smoke.
Like it just didn't fit their character journey up to this point in the movie. Like it just really didn't. Like Jin and Cassian, to me, like maybe I have to rewatch it, but like Jin and Cassian to me never had a feeling that they were going to be like a couple.
It wasn't until literally going for the tape deck, like being in that installation and getting it, and you think Cassian dies and he comes back and saves her from Krennic at the end. That's when I think they started to realize, like, okay.
Yeah. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you shoehorn this you tried to put this in at like the 0 hour in this movie, and it would have made more sense if you would have built towards it, but you didn't. There was no build towards this like emotional hug moment for these two when they're standing on the beach. It's like, if anything, I feel like Jin would have been like, fucking fuck it. Like, I'll fucking go for a swim. Like, it would have made more sense to me if Jin would have jumped in the water and been like, fuck this. Like, if I'm going out, I'm
Cassian
going out.
pulls out his guns and shooting them in the air like, fuck it. Boo, 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 for Ferrix.
Yeah, I just, like, to me,
yeah, like
this
League's saying, if anyone saw Deep Impact, it was that kind of death with the beach and all. I know exactly what she's talking about.
Yeah, I just, like, the hug just felt weird.
Fair enough. Moving on. Got to get through this anyways. Oh, there he is. Mr. Oh shit, I just got betrayed. We're talking about Dooku.
I just got popped.
Again, you know, it's iconic more for the in-universe stuff, but also, visually, it was one of the more graphic killings. He got his hands chopped off and then ceremoniously got the head removed. You started to see the weakness in Anakin and how Palpatine could kind of influence that.
Manipulate.
You obviously get the "do it" line, which has become infamous from this scene. And again, the shot I used here, the pure shock in Dooku's face when he knows his master is betraying him for the next best thing, does make this scene, even though it's kind of short and we move on, it does make it stand out a bit. It's kind of a perfect encapsulation of how the Sith operate. You're always expendable. You're always replaceable for the next best thing. And for whatever reason, maybe Dooku thought him and the old guy were on equal footing. He was just not prepared to be betrayed.
Yeah. I think that this one, there was a decent little fight leading up to it. I think it's just like, it's more funny than anything else, right? Like, this death is kind of funny to watch.
I shouldn't do it. It's not the Jedi way.
Yeah, it's like you get that line. You get during the fight, you get that Palpatine like, yeah, that little line.
Oh yeah, damn it, I forgot. Shit, more of the overacting. The is great, dude.
It's just so dumb. And then like the fucking I don't know, dude. Like the do it.
Oh my god, that is even better than the do it because it's so goofy. Yeah. It's like, what?
It is. It's just so dumb. It's like the fight starts off. I don't even remember what he says. Yeah, I think it's like
it's when they they I think they both jump up and are fighting Dooku at the same time or something. I don't know. It's so dumb. It's so out of character for a Supreme Chancellor. Like, he's like all into the fight. He's like, yeah, go get him, boys. It's like, come on. Oh my god.
It was just like, like this whole scene was just like, Obi-Wan literally gets a whole fucking balcony
and
dropped on his legs.
No big deal.
And he's no big deal. Dude can walk totally fine. Like no problem. Like a full ass metal balcony pulled down from the rafters falls on him, and there's nothing wrong
I laughed,
with him.
Nick, because some of the angriest Star Wars fans on the internet that have huge followings, they literally look at these movies as Star Wars gospel. It's like, just watch them analytically, like watch them critically, and tell me that these are perfect movies. They're not. Oh my god, like this is so ridiculous.
It was. I think that was it. He does the line when he's still restrained.
Oh my god!
It's early in the fight before Obi gets taken down.
Jesus.
Like, it's just. I was like, dude. I was like, what? And it's like, it's not even that he says it. it's they literally zoom in on his face as he says it, and it's like there's a fucking fight going on.
It's like he's watching a Super Bowl and his team scored or something. He's not watching a duel.
Yeah. It's just crazy to me, dude. It was just this fight was so funny, and then like it's a brutal way to die. Like you see his head like fucking hit the ground and roll. Like it was brutal for sure, but like everything leading up to it is like just fucking
pure Star Wars prequel silliness. All right,
just some silly shit.
Next up, a good one. Ben Kenobi, A New Hope. Back to the theme of typically if a hero's dying, it's first sacrifice. You had a great line here where he literally tees him up. He's like, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can ever imagine or possibly imagine.
Yeah.
He gives Luke the final look like, all right, I see they got out, they're ready. It's time to make my move. I'm going to say whatever Jedi prayer I need to become one with the Force. And even for the time when you first watch this and Vader takes a swing and you just see the cloak drop, you're like, what the fuck happened?
It's like, what? Yeah, it's like, what just happened?
I mean, listen, as a little kid, I'm like trying to piece this. I'm like, so if you get hit with a lightsaber, you just fucking disappear. Like, that's what I initially thought.
It is hard to understand. Yeah.
And then, obviously Luke's like, Ben! And then the Ben's death theme kicks in, which, these days is always going to have an emotional tie because of my daughter and when I used to pick her up from daycare. I mean, 2.5, 3 every time. Hey dad, play Ben's death. And it is a good motif because it starts with this. It literally starts with Ben, Luke yelling Ben and starting to shoot, and the music ramps up, and then it gets somber as Luke's sitting there like, I can't believe he's already gone. And then it's right back to it when the ties come. But this is everything. I mean, without this death, Luke doesn't get a Force ghost riding shotgun in his soul, which in turn becomes his first master. Learns about Yoda through Obi-Wan's Force ghost and the motivation in the Battle of Yavin. I mean, Obi-Wan sacrificing himself here was always his plan, and he knew that it was going to be the thing that turns the tide.
Yeah, I mean, this is like what set the bar for like, if you're going to go out in Star Wars, bro, like do it the
like
right
a space
way.
Wizard.
Yeah. Like do it in a way that's like, you think you're getting me.
Right.
I'm getting
exactly.
you. He's like literally asking him to
kill
does.
him. He
like,
just puts his fucking sword up. He's like, go for it. Strike me down, dude.
He's like, please just fucking do it. Just do it. Just do it. And like, yeah, it's like you see that cloak fall and you're like, you're as confused as Vader.
Vader's like stepping on, like, what the hell?
Vader's like, what the fuck just happened? Like, and like you're watching, you're like, what happened? And like, it was just one of those moments where it's like, and then you hear his voice, run, Luke.
Oh,
you're like, oh shit,
the run,
this guy.
Luke, run. I mean, to this day, anytime I see my kid running through the house, it's a run, Luke, run. I mean, it's just so ingrained in me. Moments from the original trilogy, the best trilogy, everyone, thank you, as we've proven throughout this analysis of deaths. But it's great. I mean, a great visual moment, great dialogue, great music. Everything about it is iconic.
It was fantastic, and I know that they've like redone this death scene or like this fight between these two, but like this moment where it's just like it's just them two standing across from each other, like former brothers, like people who used to look at each other as brothers, like face to face for the last time. It's like, and then and then you truly know in that moment who is the master, right? Like Obi-Wan proves to him in that moment, regardless of anything that happened before and anything that happened leading up to it, like he was the ultimate master.
Vader walks in
like
all confident, cocky, thinking he's the master. He's got the old guy beat. Obi-Wan lets him play into it, and then when the time was right, he makes his move to teach him one final lesson. Like, you still don't know who I am and the power of the light side of the Force.
That's right.
And our last death here. Thank you to everyone sticking around. We figured this one would go a little bit long. We still got the fan segment, but we'll zip through that because not a lot of participation this week. But our final death here is the little guy, the longest living character, 900 years. You get where you look good, that type of stuff. But it's a good moment. I mean, I know it's been memed to death. It's funny where it's just like Yoda is essentially trying to die and kill himself because Luke is such a whiny bitch. But the scene itself is good, and you get some good lore divulged in this scene. If you remember, this is where we learn that Luke and Leia are brother and sister. It is Yoda is the one that essentially gives him, there is another Skywalker. Literally, his last line is tipping off to Luke, like, hey, there's someone out there, and by the time Luke goes to talk to Obi-Wan, he's got enough Force juice to infer that it's Leia. But even here, like, Yoda is still providing sage advice. He's like, hey, Luke, I mean, I'm sorry we didn't tell you about your dad, but it's just what you got to do. And guess what? You got to go face him again. If you don't, we lose. And he checked Luke. He's like, no, you faced him, but you faced him too early. So no, you are not a Jedi. Quit calling yourself a fucking Jedi. You will not be a Jedi until you beat your father. And, obviously, just, it's Yoda, man. He's fucking dying. He's putting himself out the pasture. And then he, his line about the other Skywalker, and then he disappears. I mean, it's memorable, if anything else.
It's a memorable death, and it's like, you can't ask too much from Yoda's death, right? The dude is 900 plus years old. He can barely
he probably
move.
Should be dead. He probably should be dying.
It's like, it's like when you watch a human that's 105 go. And it's just
hard
like,
to get
dude,
sad about that.
Yeah, it's like they lived a life. Like they lived as much as you could live. And like the only thing is, like, if you just think about like everything that Yoda saw, right? Like 900 years of life, and like you see the rise and fall of different, like, you can see the, not literally empires in terms of like Star Wars, but like you see the rise and fall of like factions and people, and like you see legends born and die within your lifespan. Like, it's pretty fucking crazy. And like, he went out doing what he always did, right? He went out teaching. Like, he went out telling Luke,
Bat
like,
saying he went out by forcing too little.
Yeah, pretty much. He just didn't have enough force left in him to live anymore. But yeah, I mean, like, he went to, like, he was always the teacher at the Jedi Academy. He taught the younglings. He taught everybody. And he went out, like, teaching Luke his last lesson, which I think is pretty poignant.
Again, I mean, Return of the Jedi is always going to have plenty of special places in my Star Wars soul. So any moment from there, I'm always going to have fond memories of, even if Yoda kind of fucked everything up. I mean, he was a dickhead. He was full of hubris. He's the reason the Jedi were almost vanquished. All right. So real quick, Nick, your top 3 personal favorite iconic deaths. Just rattle them off. We've already talked about them, so list them out. Yeah,
mine are going to be Han, Vader, and then I have a tie for third, and it's Jordan Kanan. Very different deaths for both Jordan Kanan, but also very, like, impactful deaths. Yeah, I think coming in for me at number 3 would be Han. And this hurts to do it, but I can't deny just my raw emotions. Number 2, Vader, Anakin. Number 1, Kanan. I can't, like, it feels sacrilegious to not give that spot to Vader, Anakin, but I'm sorry, like, I'm probably gonna watch that Living on a Prayer clip after this just to feel a little bit. Dude, it's an insane death. It's like, I have, like, it's in my top 3 too. Like, I have no problem with that death being your number 1. It makes total sense. It's a good one. All right, people, thanks for playing there in the live chat. We're not done yet. We always do a fan segment to close out the show. I know it's a long one today, so thanks for bearing with us. But we give you 2 avenues to get involved in the fan segment. The first being the question of the week. We post that in our Discord. We got an open server, link down in the description of this video. It goes on Instagram, Twitter, and our YouTube community. So you just got to be following, have your notifications turned on so you don't miss the question. All right, Nick, this week we try to theme it to our main topic. So we asked the fans, who has the most iconic death scene in Star Wars? And sadly, not a lot of juice on this one, but the regulars were there. So what'd we get? Yeah, here's what we got. We got Sir Dork, the most regular of regulars. Jared says, I feel like they're... My Khmer daddy. Yes, your Khmer father. My Khmer benefactor. So Jared says, I feel like there are a lot of really important death scenes in Star Wars, like Kanan and Qui-Gon, but probably the most iconic is old Ben sacrificing himself to be one with the Force and help Luke along his journey. Strike me down and I shall become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Yes, good stuff. Hey, look at that. Way to go, dork. Yeah. Nose Rain. We haven't seen Nose Rain on here for a while. He says Obi.
Damn, Nose Rain shit. I haven't interacted with Richie in years. I mean, Nose Rain was like one of the toy photography gods. Still is.
Yeah. Nose Rain. Yeah, like Nose Rain was always in the top 5.
IG, look at you letting our posts be seen by like a random stranger. How about that?
I know, right? Crazy. League of Extraordinary Sixthers. She says the Acolyte. Oof. Is it too soon still? It still hurts.
Oh, man. Nice one, League.
Yeah. In truth, probably Kane and Jarrus had the most emotionally impactful death.
It is. So, the Acolyte. There is still a movement on Twitter out there to try and say
Bro, it's like I really did think that it was going to die down a lot faster than what it has. Like, people are still... And, like... Look, good.
They're trying.
People know.
And I heard you say Penguin did good numbers. It did good numbers for Max. It only did like 4 million.
That's what I was going to. It did. That's what I wanted to bring up, but I knew we were.
Yeah.
moving.
So let's not get into
they
it.
Were but great numbers, 5.6 million. Right. Dude, fucking Acolyte averaged almost double that, and people are like, oh, terrible viewership.
I know. Well,
fucking crazy.
Here we go. That's called the world for us. There's
exactly.
different goalposts for Max content versus Star Wars, apparently.
Clearly. 2797 Studios, Mr. Bat says, "Ugh, I do give props to Vader. His was impactful for sure. You have to give a nod to Luke forcing too hard. I mean, come on, he fought Kylo as a projection. He didn't fight shit. He was just moving around,
taunting him.
But I'm going 5. So many people were deeply impacted by that. If they would have listened and then Fox become the most hated clone for ultimately doing his job, good soldiers follow orders. So 5s for Bat. Nova Toymation says most iconic death has to go to Vader from his redemption by temporarily destroying the Emperor.
It's a shame. We have to qualify that now.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. The face reveal on those last moments telling his son he was right, just perfect. Quick Picks Toys says Anakin's mother.
Yeah.
Shmi Skywalker. I mean, that was a pretty brutal death too, though. But you didn't actually you see her dying in Anakin's arms. Then the dark side.
That might have also been one of those overacted prequel scenes too.
That one's pretty overacted for sure. And then Dago YJ says, I think it's Darth Vader and Kylo Ren. Kylo's death, I don't know, man. That was like, I said like maybe you put Kylo on there, but I was okay with leaving him off. I don't feel like Kylo's death was that great. I feel like he could have had a
just like a lot of the other things in Tross. It was just dumb. I mean, he falls down a hole, heals Rey, and dies. It's like, okay. Yeah. Then they have to fucking kiss because why not?
Yeah,
we need that.
It's like, I don't know why. Like the same feeling about the hug. Like at least there was like a little bit more teasing of like, is Rey going to be able to pull him back to the light, and will they be a thing if she does? Like there was a little bit more of that on the bone than like fucking Cassian and Jin being a couple like that. There was no hint of that until the last 8 minutes of the movie.
All right. Well, that's it. Like I said, not a lot of replies this week. So next week, if you want to get your name and your comment discussed on the show, make sure you're following our socials and looking for the question of the week. Usually comes out Wednesday morning. We like to keep it fresh, even though the way our algo works, we probably should put it out on a Monday. That way more people might accidentally stumble upon it.
May see it.
So now, Nick, it is time for the top 5 Star Wars fan arts features of the week. The best way to get involved here, if you get into Star Wars art creation, doesn't have to be toys, although that's all we get these days. Use hashtag Star Wars Time Show, but more importantly, to be considered for the top 5, use ad tag at StarWarsTime.show. And then my man will knight you on a Monday night to be discussed on a Wednesday evening. So, Nick, who do we have this week?
This week, the top 5 kicks off with Darth Witch. And Darth Witch is giving us an awesome look at like a possible Ventress v Anakin showdown. It's kind of like from
Gennedy's Clone Wars, Nick.
Gennedy's Clone Wars,
I think is what this is going for.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really well set up shot, right? You have this awesome like steep staircase on Dathomir. You got the I don't know what they called, like the little head statues on the side. that like really bring the ambiance. The lightsabers ignited for both characters, and if you zoom in on Ventress's character, she looks like fucking crazy, dude.
It's
like,
literally the Gennady version
the
of her.
Gennady version
and
of
I
her,
believe
yeah.
Darth Witch has fully recreated this Dio in practicality. Like, this is something they made.
I mean, absolutely crazy amount of work put into this. The Ventress looks awesome. The little steam coming off the lightsaber is pretty cool as well. I mean, just a really awesome setup and execution here by Darth Witch.
And Nick, they just found us this week. They just started popping up in the tags this week. So I don't know how people are finding us, because literally our account's been dead for over a year, and we didn't even regain like 1% of our following. That's how buried we are now, and we don't bitch about it anymore. But that's our lot in life.
Yeah, but hey, appreciate Darth Witch for finding us. An awesome shot stuff here on this.
Keep them coming, Darth Witch.
Anakin Ventress. Good stuff. Next up, we have Thor, but it's THO_R 2012 on Instagram, and they're giving us some awesome
training, huh?
Yeah, some Inquisitor training. So you see the man himself, Darth Vader, having a large-scale lightsaber fight with all of his Inquisitors. You can see the Grand Inquisitor there in the back. I think that's the second sister.
The fourth
on
is
the
there
left,
in the front. The fifth bro.
So a bunch of them up there. He's taking on everybody. And the actually the quote is, you don't know the power of the dark side, you will learn, Inquisitors, or you will die. So he's like, this is a training session, but he's like, if you suck, I'm just going to kill you. I'm going to straight up axe you if you don't do well in this training session. So it's good posing, good lightsaber effects.
Honestly, Nick, my favorite part is the reflection of the lightsaber in Vader's eye and his helmet. Love that little touch.
Yeah, there's that little detail. Yeah, good stuff. At THO_R2012 on Instagram. Next up, we have Dank Ferric Toys, and Dank Ferric Toys is hitting us with what he calls Commander Tano. So this is Ahsoka back in the Clone Wars days, rolling out with Rex and the 501. It's just an awesome shot, awesome effects. I like how there's the cotton ball with the lighting underneath it to give us that explosion effect on the right side. The background with the bokeh and the explosions is also awesome. The posing on all the clones is great as well. Just all around awesome shot here from Dank Ferric Toys. Yep. There we go. Next up, we got Star Wars Rick _Rick on Instagram, and Star Wars Rick gives us an awesome shot of like the Endor ground crew plus Luke. I love it. So you get, actually it's plus Luke and Lando. So you get like Leia in her Endor greens. You got Han and his Endor outfit, Chewie, and then all black Luke with his green boy lightsaber, and and Lando there in the back. It's just the crew together. It's always nice to see the crew all together, right?
Yeah, it's the hero squad. It's picture day for the rebels.
That's right. They took this picture before they set off on the mission. So that's when they still had everybody together. Right.
They're like, yeah, look how fucking badass we look. Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we can do it. Let's snap a pic. Except, hey, Luke, take the lightsaber out. We got to make the pic look real good.
And R2 is the camera, by the way.
Yeah, and R2's taking the picture. So just a fun setup here from Star Wars _Rick on Instagram. And then to close this one out, we have a clicky one, and that means it's Mr. Gree01. And Gree01's hitting us with a truly like down and dirty, gritty Imperial Stormtrooper shot. And I mean, like, they're on a flaming battlefield.
Mimban, baby.
Completely destroyed. The Battle of Mimban. This one trooper just looks so heroic, right? Like, this dude is battered and beaten, but he's still standing,
capes on,
gun in hand. And he's like telling his troops, like, come on, keep pushing forward. Just an awesome looking shot from Gree.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I just wish Gree01 made it easier to embed their work.
Yeah, I know. But hey, one extra
A man
click
can
for a
bitch,
cool
can he?
shot.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. So good stuff from Gree01 on Instagram. And that is the end of the top 5. And that is the end of our show for this week. So Matt, go ahead.
All right,
close
my
us out.
friends, another fruitful discussion about that galaxy that is so far, far away. We always appreciate those that take the time out of their day to join us live. We also love those of you on the podcast platforms because you're our OGs. We started as a podcast and it eventually became a live stream hybrid. So all you people out there on the Spotifys and the Apple Music listening and getting those numbers up, we're like 1,500, 1,800 a week. We speak your name. All right. If you ever want to come join in, see what this is like live, don't forget Wednesdays, 5 p. Eastern, as close as we can get, youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. But in between now and then, we're going to point you towards StarWarsTime.net, our home base on the internet. It used to be full of articles, but both of us are lazy assholes these days. So it's mostly the home for our podcast episodes, the stream. We've got Nick's Top 5s posts, always go up on StarWarsTime.net. And whenever I get a bug up my ass, I might write some news over there. But it's also a great resource to use to stump for your bros on the SWTS. If you run into a like-minded individual, or hell, maybe even an enemy, just say, hey, why don't you check out StarWarsTime.net? Link up to their socials. Follow them on YouTube. You never know who might enjoy the SWTS. Because we know it, you know it, there's always time for Star Wars Time, so why not bring a friend? We speak your name. We appreciate you all. Keep the clicks coming, the ratings, the reviews, the shares, the clips, the thumbs up, the comments. That's the stuff that helps us the most. And of course, all of your lovely donations and loyalty through your YouTube memberships. We really do feel blessed to have the small but very dedicated audience that we have. All right, people, there's always time for Star Wars Time. And if you listen to the Star Wars Time Show, the Force will be with you always.